Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, April 9th. The time is 5:32, and I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the March 12th, 2025 regular meeting minutes?
I move to approve the Board of Finance regular meeting minutes of March 12th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion, corrections? No? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the March 17 special meeting minutes?
Move to approve the Board of Finance special meeting minutes of March 17th, 2025.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Do I have a motion to approve the March 24th special meeting minutes?
Move to approve the Board of Finance special meeting minutes of March 24th, 2025.
I'll second that as well.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion, corrections? No.
Possibly. I wasn't quite sure, but on page 8 there was something about $64 million budget for Board of Ed. I couldn't remember if it was 64 or 68, if the previous year was 64. Current year is 60.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so strike my comments.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the March 24th special meeting minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Motion carries. Next is delegations, where members of the public could speak to the board on any of the items on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public that wants to speak? Seeing none, I will move on to our reports. First, our first selectman, Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, good evening. It's no news that we've been working hard on the budget. I think we all know that. I did meet with our town attorneys yesterday, and I told them that, I commissioned them to come up with a draft for an ordinance for the Coastal Resiliency Fund. And I told them that, we really need to get this accomplished before the end of the fiscal year. So I've assigned that to them, and they are working on it. Another little side note I discovered, as I say, this is a year of finding problems and resolving problems. There was a gathering on the Liberty Green over the weekend. I think most people are aware of that. And the question was posed to me, were there any restrictions on public assembly on the Liberty Green? So I immediately got a copy of the deed that conveyed that to the town, and I pulled the ordinance governing restrictions with public gatherings and things of that nature, whether or not you needed a permit. Interestingly, the ordinance, public gatherings for like weddings or funerals or public assemblies are excluded from the action of the ordinance. So the restrictions in the ordinance do not apply for those types of uses. So my feeling was that people were permitted to meet there as long as it wasn't troublesome or violent, anything like that would restrict it. But what really caught my attention, and I'm just going to bring it to your attention, was in the deed there were restrictions for that green that the town could not build a public building, or it couldn't be used for commercial use. Those were deed restrictions as part of when it was given to the town. Whoever drafted the deed, those restrictions were only good for 6 months. So in 1913, when that deed was created, the deed restrictions on that piece of that parcel expired. So this administration doesn't have any interest in building a building on that site, but to protect it from the future, I am going to look at what the best way is to really rejuvenate what those restrictions were. Then basically, you couldn't be a commercial use, and the town couldn't put a building up and use it in that way. So I'm not sure, I haven't thought it through far enough yet. Either we do an ordinance that would, recite the language by reference in the deed that would protect that property into the future, or we could re-record the deed to ourselves absent that 6-month expiration date. So just thought I'd bring that to your attention, something that I didn't expect to discover, but that was something that came up. Other than that, I don't have anything at the moment further to report.
Okay, thank you. So on to reports from our finance director, Mr. Gervais. Thank you.
All right, so what we have here is, I emailed the Board of Finance and Dan a few minutes ago with our draft financials. There are still a few open items, and I've attached those for you guys to review, just to see where we are. We're hopeful to get the audit in technical review by the end of this week. Most of these items have been either addressed or are in the process of being addressed, so we're hoping to get a more robust draft out at the end of this week and submitted to our firm's technical review team. So I just want to give the board a quick update where we are. You can see on Exhibit 4, that's the balance sheet, I'm sorry, the P&L. You can see our fund balance ends just shy of $16 million. So there's a 100-page draft financials in your email. I wanted to save the 500 pages. So if anyone has any questions, you can email me, and we'll go from there. So, but besides that, that's...
Yeah.
Can I just ask how this the number comes out against your forecasts?
It's probably a little better than I was anticipating, almost $16 million. Let me just pull up our fund balance projection. So, I'm the one controlling the screen, not James. Okay. So, so that fund balance of $15,988,000 puts us for June 30, 2023 at approximately a 20% fund balance. You'll notice in 2024, I'm anticipating it ballooning a little further to 21%. 25, we're probably taking all of that $1 million, and then in 26, we have the $1 million budgeted in this fiscal year as well. Right, so you see at the end of 2025, it looks like we're going to be above our 17% target fund balance. Scott, I think before you started, or maybe it was right when you started, the Board of Finance adopted a fund balance policy to try to keep a 17% fund balance at any given time, which is just a little more than 2 months of working capital. So you'll notice with the use of fund balance in 25 and 26, we're dipping below that 17%. But that's kind of forward-looking. At this point, 14 months into the future. So this is our best guess at the moment.
Could you just explain for everybody, once we go over the 17%, where that extra money goes?
I believe it still stays in fund balance, it just builds. And the idea is if we hit that target and we kind of maintain that target or more, not only do we have 2 months of working capital, God forbid there's an emergency, but the town has a healthy fund balance in the eyes of S&P and Moody's, but also that money that we have sitting there, you know, we bring interest income off that. So right now, the STIF, the State Investment, the Short-Term Investment Fund, governed kind of by the state of Connecticut, is hovering about 4.25. So if you have, you know, north of $20 million in that fund, or even 15 million, we're getting interest on that money. That's the that's really what's driving our investment income, right? Because you know we get money twice a year. The majority of our money comes twice a year, January and July. So January, at the end of January, end of July, we're flush with, you know, $30 million roughly in cash, and then we spend that down over the next couple of months. So December's our worst month, as well as June's our worst month for collecting investment earnings, because there's nothing really in our accounts except for, you know, a couple $1 million plus our fund balance.
So Kevin, you mentioned that we were going to use all of the million for the
Correct.
this present year, but the 1.75 million plus other financing sources.
We back that out of the equation because part of the budgeted revenues doesn't account for one-time other financing sources. So there was money there for the $1 million, which is already accounted for on the right-hand side. There's $500,000, I believe, of other transfers in from other funds. And then there was about $250,000 from the East Lyme ambulance reimbursement for our firefighters. We know the $250,000 from East Lyme ambulance is reduced to about $60,000 based on the new contract agreement with them. And we're still kind of, depending on how, you know, once this audit's finalized, we'll see what funds have money to turn over to the general fund. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just wondering for the use of fund balance where we have the lack of data in that column, what those appropriations were when you back out the less other financing source. Do you understand what I'm asking?
So the column L is the those three are, you know, looking at the records. Those are the only 3 years I anticipate us using the fund balance. The other years, there was 1 year, I think it was 2022. We didn't need to use the fund balance because we had a tax sale, and that brought in more money, so we were able to offset that fund balance increase. So we've kind of had some things kind of go our way some of those years where we had, like, you know, unanticipated revenues coming in.
Okay.
Right.
But
Does that answer your question, Rich?
yeah, I just want to know what the fund balance that was appropriated towards the budget was in those years, even though it wasn't used.
Okay. Well, it would be in this column. So this other financing sources here, I can go back and do a little analysis, but I imagine it would have had to be in this column. So, you know, I'll go back and look at that.
Okay, thank you.
And just to sort of tie it into our budget discussions, and as we had kind of a robust discussion about contingency and when we use contingency, and, you know, are we putting enough in contingency for those things like the boat that, you know, washed up, that type of thing. Theoretically, the fund balance would be there for things that, you know, wouldn't be covered in contingency, but the offset to that is it's a very negative from the rating agency's perspective for us to dip into the fund balance, because they look at that as, you know, like we weren't managing our,
Dipping into our piggy bank.
yeah. So it's a
Can I just ask?
yep.
That's helpful to understand, thanks. Was there any reaction from the ratings agency to previous use of fund balance?
It's one of their first questions they ask: how much of the budget is used? How much of the budgeted revenue is offset by?
Did it impact their ratings when we used?
It doesn't. We're a AA rated town, but we're using about 1.25%. So we're not using too much of it, right? But
And they've also seen the steady progress that we've made
with
over
building
the
fund
years.
balance, correct.
So that's
So
made them
presumably
happy.
continuing to use it at that percentage won't cause a damage to the bond rating, in your opinion?
That's reasonable.
Thanks.
And so for the years where we did actually use it, was there any impact on our bond rating in those years?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I know I think in the last 5 years there was a change in the bond rating, but that was before I was here. I could research it, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Change up or down?
Paul, do you have any recollection of a change in bond rating?
No.
I'll research it for you, Rich.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The draft statement, you said was it emailed to us, or was it posted to the?
I emailed it,
Okay.
5 o'clock-ish.
Okay. I'm still waiting on you promised me a balance sheet and a debt schedule. I've yet to see either one of those, so. Just get me the most current one there.
Okay.
I'd like to analyze, working capital and cash flow, so it's.
Balance sheet.
Okay. And then,
So I got that one.
that's,
Yep.
okay, just making sure. Okay, so then, on to new business. We have, that was distributed the other evening, a potential letter from our auditors, Clifton Larson Allen, to continue providing the services for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. This would be a continuation. We typically would be going out to bid in the 5th year, but because of the fact that they had a merger and acquisition, we can continue with them. And since we are in the midst of catching up with a multi-year audits, there's a recommendation that we continue with them rather than trying to change things up at this point in the game. So I think everybody's had a chance to see the letter that we went out, and looking for a motion to approve and appoint Clifton Larson Allen, LLP, as our fiscal year 2025 auditor. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve CLA to perform the 2025 audit.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further questions or discussion?
Yeah, just one concern is that this is not a formal engagement letter, so this is still, it's only a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Before, hopefully by the end of the month, they can supply us with a,
Engagement letter?
with an engagement letter. And that should have the, lay out the price in terms of the audit, and before they start, they're gonna need that, so.
So it is.
So I'm assuming that price will stay, but I'm saying they could change
From the
that.
95,000 that they have in this letter.
Can I just ask Kevin about the quality of the work so far and about their delivery on timeline milestones?
So I had a meeting at 2 o'clock. We have a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So at this point, we're meeting daily with the auditors to go over these final open items. So I've been here. I'm going on my 3rd year. We've had 3 different audit partners. We've had a different audit partner every year, and that person brings new staffing every year. So every year's been a little different. The current auditors are very thorough. So.
And they're meeting deadlines?
I think we're meeting deadlines. We're just trying to get this out the door here, but hopefully by the end of the month, if not the end of the month, the first week in May, before our next MFAC meeting, May 7th.
Actually, we didn't make the deadline for this one. This one is it's very past due, so they're supposed to be filed within 6 months at the end of the fiscal year, and then you can get an extension. So we're kind of on borrowed time here on these, and the same with 24. So we're doing the best we can, I guess, to get caught up on these. Trouble is the timing on these guys too. They try to do these audits within a certain time, and if you don't get it done within that time, then you're kind of at their mercy. And you can't,
And we're also challenged in that there's not a whole lot of auditors out there that are willing to do municipalities.
No, they're not very fun to do. It's not something most CPAs want to get into, myself included.
So Scott, we do have a timeline. We provide MFAC quarterly. So the last time the town has filed a financial statement on time was 12 years ago. So we're trying to get on track. So we have a plan here to get this audit done. The plan was 4:30. That may be pushed back a week. You'll see the screen's about 10 seconds delayed. So yeah, 23 audit we're hoping to get done end of this month, beginning of May. Move to get this audit done before Labor Day, when their busy season starts for 2024, and then by then 2025 is due 12/31. They provide 3 months of extensions really until March 31st. So if we get the 23 audit turned around, the 24 audit turned around, we will be the most on track we've been in 14 years. So
is it your recommendation to stick with this group?
it is my recommendation, but it is also, that's not really what holds weight, it's MFAC. So the Municipal Finance Advisory Committee from the state of Connecticut is the one recommending this.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Motion carries 5-0. And now on to the fun portion of our evening is our continuing budget deliberations. So we started off a few weeks ago, and I've been going through every department. I think we ended with animal control the other night. We did a little bouncing around. I don't know whether we want to try just finishing up that, and then we can go back. I know we've done a little bit where, we've asked everyone to see if there's anything that they would suggest. We also went out to a number of the departments in town. You all know your business best, and hope for them to come up with some suggestions of ways that we can try to mitigate, because we were still coming in, even after the cuts that have been made to both Board of Ed and different town operations. We were still coming in with over or close to a 7% increase, 6.87. So, we're in that funny place where if people come out and vote against it because it's too high, then we'll be back and looking for further cuts. So trying to find that middle ground where people can feel like they can, support the budget as a whole, but not make it too painful on everyone. So it's a tough job. So unless anyone has a different idea of where we should go, shall we find our animal control?
I know there's one. I would recommend if there's somebody here that we need to speak with, maybe ask them.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Can I ask Kevin a high-level question before we get
Sure.
into details? In previous meetings, I know you've sort of been fiddling with the collection rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you had forecast that you thought you could get the collection rate up a bit higher.
We can,
Is
yep.
that still the case? And if you were to apply that revised collection rate, how might it change where we're at now?
Yeah, my computer's just about 10 seconds delayed here for whatever reason. But It'll pull up the collection rate in a second. Okay, so collection rate was moved up by the Board of Selectmen from 98.2% to 98.75%. The 98.2 is probably about 1% from where we actually are. The past 2 years, we've been within 2 basis points of being 99.18 and then 99.22, I believe it was. So we're right around that 99.2%. If we move up to that 99.2%, there is no wiggle room, and if there is a downturn, we probably won't meet that collection rate. But 99, 99.1, 99, something like that is well attainable. So if we, just to show everybody, if we just take this and move that to 99, the bottom number drops about 0.25%.
And so is it your recommendation that we do something like that, or do you think that there's any chance of being even more liberal with getting that 99 to what it has been in those previous years?
Yes to the 99. To 99.2, I'd be very scared. 99.1, I'd be uncomfortable. But 99, I definitely see 99 definitely happening. I just don't know how everything shakes out, with everything going on, really.
Things are a little volatile these days.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has to pay their taxes, whether they
I know
don't
I'm
pay
asking you to
upfront.
speculate. Thank you for doing it. I just,
Yeah, 99. I think 99's conservative.
thanks.
So, Kevin, even in the volatility of our environment right now, 99, you still feel pretty safe about?
It was over 99 all the COVID years.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that's where I think 99 still, I think, is conservative
Thank you.
or attainable.
Attainable.
So with that in mind, did you want to make a motion to, that way we're working, we know what we're working with?
Sure, I'll move that we follow Kevin's thought process and move the collection rate from 98.75, I think is what it was, to 99.00 as is shown on the screen.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Motion carries. We will go with a collection rate of 99%.
Make sure Lauren hasn't joined.
Yeah, she said she would probably not be able to join until
Okay.
6:30.
I just want to log in over there every once in a
Yeah.
while, make sure no one's there.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so, with that, I agree, kind of makes sense to go with the folks that are in the room, that we've been having a few discussions on things. So, I don't know, Joe, do you want to come up, and we're going to look at maybe building maintenance, I think was.
So, do you want to start with building maintenance or the highway building maintenance?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
I mean, I guess we can start with maintenance. I will preface it by saying I completely understand the position you guys are in, so it's hard to, there's nothing extra in this budget, so I could suggest things, I'll just tell you what we're not going to do or what we're not going to pay for, because it's not like there's anything extra. I did mention with Mr. Gervais today, you could try to drop the electricity line more. The reason it's showing, I mean, it's 34% increase, but we're not using more electricity. It's all the extra, that whole public demand and trying to get our hands around it. We can, I guess, hope and do a dance and hope that comes in less, because it's hard to tell where the regulatory thing is, but that's an area. The rest, there's really, I saw, and I did watch the meeting on Monday night and trying to understand what's going on, and we're really tight on the custodian as far as just a little history of it. They already cut it back in the past, and we're just kind of just getting by. There was mention of someone that's retiring that you could. There's no official. You can't plan for something that's not official, and I haven't even heard that that person is be doing. So it's kind of hard to speculate you're going to just change things. One of the things you can on the overtime, it's that age-old dilemma of the members that have been on this board. I mean, 19,000 of the 22 is for us to staff the weekends at the community center that I have only been paying for the last 2 years, and we never paid for that before, and it was kind of an effort between the library, the community center, the library, Parks and Rec, and Senior Services of wanting us to staff that, but that comes at a cost of our budget that went up way much. And so if you're suggesting an area, that might be an area, because we weren't doing it 2 years ago. I mean, we're in dire times as far as where we're cutting, but as far as we still have to do the service contracts, they're all going up. You still have to do the maintenance. I'd be very concerned of cutting the maintenance of these buildings, because that's when you get yourself in trouble. It's not like we have a lot of extra money there. Custodial supplies, all the stuff, everything is flat. So that's why I struggle with the building maintenance. If you tell me how much we'll not do something or not have a building open, I don't know what else to tell you here, except my recommendation would be taking some money out of electricity and taking maybe some of the overtime and not having it staffed with I mean, one of the things that happens on the weekends, and I know, and I'm not trying to, I have directors here that are in that building that have asked for this, but I mean, maybe the programming has to pick it up a cost if people are doing stuff on the weekends on a Parks and Rec program, and we're supplying someone to be there, but they're paying $2 for a program that maybe they might have to pay for. I just, maybe that's the option. So, but I'm having a staff member there on time and a half there all day that's, being there, and we didn't do that 2 years ago. So that's a suggestion. You could take 19,000 out of there. So, but I don't know what else. There's not a lot in this budget. I mean, if you see the buildings are in good shape, I guess they could start not going in good shape. I think we take a lot of pride in keeping these buildings up, but it's not like we're not paying the custodians even that much anyway. So this whole, can we reorganize this and reorganize that? It's not. There's not some windfall of cash. If anything, we're just barely covering the hours to make sure that, we did add only 3 years ago. We added the public safety complex, which we hadn't done before. That's 38,000 square. At the time, we were said, it's going to be just a downstairs. It's the upstairs. I mean, now the PD's moved into there, so it's not. We got that 30 hours a week. I mean, we're covering these buildings with not a lot of hours. So I'm open to any questions you have in this budget. I just don't know what to tell you. I just suggested two things. You could take money out of electricity. You could take money out of the overtime. Would be my best recommendation.
One of the couple things I was thinking was, is there any way like stormwater management?
Well, we're talking
road
maintenance of town
signage?
buildings. So do you want to
Yeah.
talk? Are we going to talk about how? Because
No,
that's a
I
different.
thought you said we were all set with.
Oh, okay.
with
Well, is there any
buildings,
questions
'cause
on the
you
maintenance
couldn't
of
come
town
up with
buildings?
anything else there, so I was just.
I'll get into the highway is
Yeah.
a different matter because
Yeah.
there's obviously more money in that. So
Yeah.
I just want to make. Is there any questions on the maintenance of town buildings?
Yeah,
Sorry, I just.
Oh no,
thought you were
you called me by the card.
Nothing there, so I moved on.
yeah, a question on the electricity, because that was your first go-to
Yep.
on this. So from the 2024 actual expense, I know you had a real sweet contract for our electric rates.
Correct.
Prior to the current one. How much of an increase in electric rate did we have with the new contract that we have?
So by new contract, we're talking supply, because there's supply and
Right.
distribution. So the
Right.
supply contract we had was 6.7 cents, and it went up to 10.1. I believe that's a 31% increase, and that happened on January 1st. So right as we were going through the budget process, we were getting hammered with the public demand costs, and also now our supply went up. And there's so many different things that Eversource throws onto that bill. They were actually taxing us on the public demand costs. So. We're trying to get our arms around. So this is a conservative number, the 370. That's why I told Kevin that if we take maybe 20,000 out of there, I think we might be all right, and we'll track it every month. And I guess that's why you have town contingency if it goes back up to the thing. But there was some indication. We did talk to our Eversource rep when we had a meeting that public demand cost will probably be going away. The problem is something else is going to go in lieu of it. So what does that mean? But I can't believe they're going to continue putting a 30%, 40% increase on people's electric bills, it's chaos. So, and that's hitting every town. So that's my best guess. It was about 30 to 40%.
Yeah, with that kind of increase in what our supply contract is, I don't really feel comfortable, regardless of the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah. Yep. No, I understand what you're saying. I don't envy you guys sitting in that position. It's the only thing in here that has any increase. Everything else is relatively flat unless you want to take out even the heating. It's like it's almost flat, but it's hard to gauge exactly what next year's heating fuels are going to be. So
And I agree with you about the custodians, that the departments that utilize having that building open, their budgets are strapped really tight too.
Yeah.
So this one, I feel comfortable just leaving it alone.
yeah, there is a day custodian that is going to be retiring. The gentleman there he's definitely deserves to retire, and we will have to fill that position. He's only there 24 hours a week, but as these guys can attest, the different directors in that building, it's really not a custodian. It's an all-purpose doing everything in that building. I mean, they're setting up activity rooms. They're doing all the stuff. They're constantly just helping with programming. So again, we could not fill that, but it would cause havoc on that building. That's one of those things. That person's going to be retiring, and I hope we fill it. And that this budget will propose to fill it. But if they don't want to fill a position, there you go. It's going to be a huge impact on services to the community center.
And just to touch on one comment you made about the public safety building, you mentioned that the PD moved into the second floor as well as the fire chief.
Well, their weight room is now. It used to be in a much smaller area. Now it's a much bigger upstairs. They have the big common area is now a whole meeting room space. I mean, it's the fire marshal's office, and it's nice that they have, but that whole office was not when it was supposed to be a corner area. Now, I mean, most of that area upstairs is all kind of probably 60-80% being used as far as in different things.
Okay, thank you. I did not know that.
If you go upstairs and walk up the stairs there, I don't think you can get out of the stairwell, right?
No, that's all our
but-
work.
But your guys' areas,
Open it for you whenever you like.
yeah, there's a lot of that upstairs is being used now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. If there's no other questions, we can go on, and I'll answer. Or do you have any other questions on building maintenance?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yep.
So I want to go back to electricity if we can. I have two questions. One is, are there electricity savings measures that could be employed that might be able to reduce the bill?
Are you talking like efficiencies?
Yes.
We've done efficiencies and done all the LED lightings for all these buildings. So I'm not aware of any specific, but we'll certainly look. It's just every single building has been upgraded with LED lighting, and this building we had new energy management systems. We had new boilers put in the community center. We've done a lot of efficiency. The community, public safety buildings are like a 3-year-old building, so it was designed that way. But I'm not aware of any specific.
So something simple like having lights shut off.
Oh, they all have.
Unused.
Yeah, they all shut off that way.
Automatic. Okay. And then my other question about electricity is, I've just been following some of the stuff going on in Hartford about the state having lawsuits with EverSource to prevent them from these costly increases. I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm just wondering if you have a speculation about that, how it might impact the current high rates we're getting from EverSource.
I mean, the best guess is that they're going to stay the same. I'd be shocked if they do go down. And that when I was suggesting to take some money, because I don't know what else. It'd be better not to. I'm here in front of you to try to offer up money. So I have a hard time expecting exactly what's going to happen. Even the EverSource rep that works for them that talks to us is like, I have no idea what's going to happen. That's really a high level EverSource in the pure of people. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't.
Thanks.
From what I'm reading online, a piece of that public service charge is supposed to drop April 30th and not continue May 1st. But if they apply for another rate increase or this other charge in a different name, who knows what Pura will do.
It doesn't sound like a promising path for us to pursue.
There was a bill in the House to get rid of that public service charge, and it failed 25 to 11 in the State House. So,
Okay, thanks.
So
So,
I was all set with building maintenance after
Okay.
the first.
okay.
We can,
And I apologize because I
That's
knew you had
okay.
a question. So,
if nobody else has anything for building maintenance. No, I don't think I want to
okay,
do anything to electricity.
glad to hear.
I have no motion.
Yeah.
So as far as the Public Works Highway, as we all understand too, that this engineering Department 105 got blended into Department 317. I just want to give a few highlights and then I'll answer your question, Denise. The budget itself has already been through, and again, I understand why we're here, but it's already been cut by 130,000. And there's two things in the budget. One, the trash line that's up 11%. We don't control. That's 69,000. There's also, I don't want the board to forget or be aware that if you look on the fleet fuel line, it went from my request at 242 to the first selectman's request at 258. So after the fact, we absorbed 16,000 to take on the fire department's fuel with all the stuff that's going on with them. The reason I say that is you add those two up, it's $84,000. Our budget's up 49,000 right now. So those two items right there, if you take those two items out, we're actually at a negative 3.2% net increase, because the revenue is actually up 106,000, but our budget's up 49, so we're already at a budget deficit of 56. And then if you add those other items that are out of our control, the budget. The reason I'm saying that is I know it's tough today is we're already at a 3.2% negative. So I'm in front of you to say I will throw some things out that we won't end up doing for the services of the town. The last thing that I'll answer is I heard on the tape last night there was one of 45,000 for the engineering position. I'd certainly like to get into that. So 24 for the road recon. I'm just hearing numbers that I heard last night. 3,000 for storm management, which Denise will explain, and then the other was 3,000 for road signage. When I talked to Mr. Cunningham and Sir Gervais today about just in general, I'm very concerned of taking little pieces from different things that are going to cripple specific lines, like say for instance stormwater management. Like we have to do sampling and testing of stormwater, so it's going to have to come out of there, so that then will be underfunded right off the bat. So taking 3,000 is not going to make up any budget deficit here. I'd rather try to, you need chunk money, and that's what I was going to get to. So I wouldn't recommend taking out storm management. I wouldn't recommend taking out a road signage. People are asking us all the time for replacing signs. Now those sign setups for putting a new stop sign or something like that, now you got the metal post and you got the sign. It's got to be almost probably 80% more than it was 3 years ago, the cost of those things. And we put, you have to put up a proper signage. So we're already right at the limit. So we can say, I don't want it to be that, I don't want to be that person that says we're just not doing it. When the residents are, or when you have signage that's actually, you have signs, speed limit signs that are faded, you have stuff. So I don't recommend going there. Road recon, and I think, Richard, you might have had, there was a question about the grant money for the town aid road and the road recon. So our philosophy, all the years that I've been here, this is in my 12th year, has always been that the town aid road money was used to improve our roads, and road recon was to do all the maintenance, everything else, and all the drainage work. Well, this year we're kind of making a fundamental shift. Can't do that anymore because our budgets are going negative. So we're starting to do operations out of the town aid road. So even though you have 316,000 in town aid road and 204,000 road recon, I have to start dipping into operations because the 204 is so valuable for all the, we're doing a drainage problem right now in Giants Neck Heights. It's a big problem. It's probably going to be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Alex would have the exact numbers, but these, when you do a project that, it's not 5,000, it's not 10,000. You go through that money very quickly. One thing I could throw out there that was very helpful is when the board the boards approve the NIP money that comes in that you can't just use for anything on catch basin cleaning, because that's an element that we take right out of this line. So if there can be a commitment from these boards that we can use NIP money going forward to help this budget, then that might be somewhere we can do it, but I can't assume that. And we have to clean the catch basins. We have to do all these drainage projects. We have all these things that come up, the costs of the materials. I know all these departments can tell you that 204 sounds like a lot for a $4 million budget. It's like chump change. It's the only thing that we can operate. And oh, by the way, when fleet maintenance goes over, so if you look at the current, the fleet maintenance line right now is budgeted for 280. Actual expense on 2024, actual expense was 305. Where do you think that 25,000 came? Road recon. That's the money that I use to put into all the other accounts that go over, so that I don't come back to this board and say, I don't have enough money, sorry, can you give me more? So I highly recommend you don't touch the recon. And the last, the town engineer, just a little history of it. We've always had, pretty much when I got here, 5 people down there that have done a lot of the projects, and about 7, 8 years ago, they asked me to get rid of someone, so then it dropped us to 4. A few years ago, was it 2 years ago now? When Alex deployed, it was 2 years ago, he wasn't here for a year, and he wasn't getting paid because he was getting paid by the military, but that helped the town. But it was, what we witnessed was Bill Shear and I, the deputy, we couldn't get anything done because there's too much stuff to be doing. Just the engineering position, besides all the permitting at the town for the stormwater permits and all the different things that we do, they had to do all the plan reviews for the zoning. There's a lot of stuff to that. If you just assume that we can just take a person out because there's no one there, with the amount of projects that we have coming, I mentioned, and thank you, Paul, you mentioned that Joe said something about there was projects coming on. That you're exactly correct, that we have projects, we have $19 million in projects committed in the next 2 years that we have to administer. So if this 45,000, which sounds like a lot of money, then we'll probably be spending 120,000 and all the people that are going to be doing it to help those projects, because we can't staff them, because the staff downstairs is amazing. They do everything inside, and we start losing a person. We're asking for 45 because we're asking for just to still keep on the budget. We're not hiring someone for 45, but just to keep it there so that we can get through half of the year and see where we're at, but have the ability, because once you lose a position, you lose a position. If you keep it on there, then it just shows the value that, okay, it's a tough budget year, but we need to get going. So I told you all 4 things that I didn't like, but I will tell you what, that all totaled up to $75,000. It was 45, 24, 3, and 3, 75,000. What I would recommend, if you're looking in this budget for 75,000, is to take additional 75,000 out of storm materials, and I'll tell you why. That budget was 150. I already cut it 50, and it went down to 100. You're allowed, the state allows you, with the state grant, it gets back to what you're saying, Richard, that 316, you can buy salt with town aid road money. So I said before, we used to use it on road money. What I'd like to do is drop it down. If you guys need $75,000 to drop that down to 75, I only have 25 left, but salt is our biggest variable number in the budget. 2 years ago, I bought 500 tons. This year, I bought 1,300 tons. I would like to. We're down we're down about 5 people right now in public works, so we're going to be handing in a lot of money. But I would, and I talked to Mr. Gervais, he's very happy about that. It's hard for us, but the garbage isn't going to get picked up. But
I told you I'd go in a garbage truck.
yeah, if we can by the end of this calendar year, and working with these 2 to make sure they're okay, if I can fill the salt dome 100% full, that dome can fit 1,800 tons. That's almost a whole year. And I'm not saying to deplete it and leave nothing left, but then if I have a light year, I can then dip into less into town aid roadie. I have the ability in our budget to absorb a smaller amount. Now it's a bigger year, then I'll have to wait through the year and I'll do less road work. But I can then manage the budget and not cripple our department in one thing, as opposed to taking 3,000 out of here, 3,000 out, and all these lines that you're taking out now that I can't move in those. One line, storm materials, I just use less. I'll take the money out of town ready road. That would be my recommendation. So thank you for the opportunity to say, because I heard on Monday night it was getting late, and I'm sitting there on my flight home trying to don't do it.
Well, that's why we waited.
No, I appreciate that. So do you have any questions And, because, and there's no other real lines, there's nothing extra in this
So
budget.
if we took 75
Out of storm
out of
material.
storm materials, does that make you nervous, or do you?
No, I would just do less road work. Because as I said, I typically, if I drops down to 25, I certainly will not get through a winter with 25,000 in salt. Salt's usually about $100 a ton. So I'm still probably gonna have to buy about 100,000. I'm gonna have to dip into County Road 75,000. 316,000 divided by 75. I still have 240,000 to work with. I'm still all right. And if it's a really, if I had to buy 1,800 tons of salt that year, I'll do less work. If I had to buy 500 tons, so I'm comfortable taking 75 out of storm materials, and certainly then taking a half a person out, or taking road recon, which has the ability to allow me to move money around. When I say move money around, it's just so I don't have to come back to you guys. I mean, it's impossible with the budgets that we have to completely predict how much the amounts are going to be. So that road recon is the one that I make up all the other departments and do the drainage and do the sweeping, and do all the different things, catch basin, all the things. So it's a very critical line that I don't want to mess with if possible.
Do you have a question, Rich?
Worst comes to worst, if, I really appreciate your efforts here. If that 75 decrease runs into some problems, there's probably some money in contingency for the town that could go towards that, if you have other projects.
250 in contingency,
Yeah, okay.
so.
I appreciate that. I am really not that worried about,
Okay.
I'm not a betting man, I put $20 down, I would not come down and ask you for more money, because this is and why it's hard for you guys. I'll just tell you, when you look at percentages of my department, it's hard because the way the fiscal year is exactly opposite of how we do stuff, because we do some stuff in the fall, we go into hibernation in the winter, and then all of a sudden we get out of the winter and we're like, did I buy a lot of salt? Is my overtime budget? And then we know either we're going to go hard till June or we're going to go slow. Like, most of the money we spend is from May. I'll tell you right now, we're probably going to spend almost $1 million in June on road treatments, because that's when we do them. But you might see a report say, Joe's only spent 40% of his budget and he's 82% of the year. What's he doing? Does he not need it? It's just the timing of how you spend a public works budget. And Jerry's similar with the parks. So just, I'm not expecting, I mean, I appreciate it, but I'm not expecting to come back for contingency. I'm very comfortable if you go there for storm materials, but anything else I'd be very uncomfortable, because it just makes those lines very tight. I'd rather take it out of the storm materials.
And just so I'm clear, so are you saying that you'd want to fill the dome with money from this year's budget?
Yes. We're doing very well, and I understand we are in a spending freeze, and we've been very cognizant of it, but we're so far understaffed with all the people that we're not paying benefits to, we're not paying money to, that I'm going through my budget right now to see where we're at, but my goal, and the dome is about half full now, is just to stuff it to the gills with salt. Like, as much as I can put in there, because that's almost a year's supply. And if I can, and that dome is like 7-8 years old, but before we couldn't do that. Now we can hoard it, and it's actually a pretty good price right now too. So then I'm coming into a year without as concern, because I might not have to buy salt till like January, February, because I'll have enough for the first 8 storms or something like that. So that would be my plan.
Okay. Sounds reasonable. Does anyone have any further questions for Joe? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll do that.
Okay.
Make a motion to remove $75,000 from line 56-150, storm materials, equipment, and supplies.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you,
Again,
and I do understand where you guys come from, and
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Just, it's hard to,
And your budget is like one of the larger ones.
Yeah,
so
I get
go
it.
looking.
I get it.
It's,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. So, do we want to go to Parks and Rec just because Jerry sits through many of these meetings?
Yes.
So does that make sense? And And I will start off just by saying we should, over the year, have a discussion about the custodian at the senior center, and if there's some way that, you know, given the added cost of overtime on the weekends, if we can, you know, have that reflected in the fees somehow too. 'Cause it does seem like there should be an offset if we have to pay overtime for something, but I think that would be good to have a discussion on it for next year's budget. Okay, so I know, did anyone have any particular things that they wanted to talk about there?
Just a question on, did the beach fees, are we raising them this year? Are we keeping them the same, or
So,
parking fees?
yeah, thank you. Jerry Lockett, I'm the Park and Rec Director. Yes, beach fees, every year the commission acts and sets the rates for parking and non-resident admission, those types of things. Just a reminder to the Board of Finance that the fees raised at the beach go into a special revenue fund that funds the operation of the beach, pays for the lifeguards, the parking lot staff, park staff and whatnot that operate the beaches. So that the beach fees that we charge there have zero impact on the mill rate. They're in a separate.
You're gonna have enough to cover those expenses, though, this year.
Absolutely. The special revenue fund that we operate absolutely has to generate enough money to operate itself. You know, if there isn't enough money there, we can't pay the staff, our operation which would cease. So no, we don't. Yeah, the money we raise has to pay for the expenses that we have.
So part of our discussions, you know, throughout has been, you know, what positions are open and do we have to fill them, or is there a way we can get around that? And I think we, you know, Kevin and I have had a couple of discussions on, is there a creative way that we can
Right.
not
Right.
fill this particular, I don't know, Kevin, whether you want to talk about our discussions in regard to getting help.
So we had a conversation. I talked to Denise about the conversation we had in Dan's office about the. So we had a retired administrative assistant, and we were looking to do a swap to move that to the grounds crew. But with this budget, it's awfully tight. We're at over 6%. So the idea was if we could kind of eliminate that new position, but maintain the part-time seasonal labor line as it is. There was about, I think, $25,000 or $28,000 in that line for a clerical assistant in his office. Right now, we have the admin assistant from the tax collector's office floating over there to help with beach passes, things like that. It seems to be working, so the proposal I kind of floated in Dan's office yesterday was to leave that admin assistant's salary in the tax collector's office, because it's budgeted there, it's there, no need to do moving around, but use this additional money that's in this part-time season line to actually assist in the fields and in the grounds. So it wouldn't be a full-time position, but it would be additional seasonal help.
And can you walk through how that would be reflected in this budget?
Yes, so let me just pull up real quick, 26. So we would be able to realize a savings of, is it the
55.
46, 640?
Yeah, there's 55. It'd be the
It's
bottom
the
one.
55,000
Yep.
here? So we'd be able to realize 55,000 in savings in this wage line on top of health insurance and some of the other fringe, but mainly health insurance. Because this would be a union employee in the pension, so we wouldn't be able to offset really any increase to the pension contribution. It would really just come in the form of health insurance.
So could you specify which?
The $300,000 line the
Okay, Maintenance
maintenance
payroll.
payroll, correct.
okay.
So,
So that in itself
because
is
there's an
saving.
administrative assistant, excuse me, in 51619, fourth line down.
So, correct, so there's two administrative assistants in the Park and Rec office. Well, there's one now. So you see how the, in column fiscal year 25-26, there was 53, 333 there, and then to the right of it, it's zeroed out.
Yes?
That's that position. So essentially what we were doing was taking the the benefits from that administrative assistant line and moving it to the grounds crew to add. So it was a zero full-time equivalent addition. It was just moving. So essentially what we're doing here is cutting staffing by one full-time equivalent. We're adding seasonal help, but we're saving the benefits of that.
And the total is the 53,333 that gets.
So that person's retired, so that's why there's a zero in the column to the right of that. So we were gonna get rid of that 53,333 job and have a $55,000 maintainer.
And that's maintainer number 3.
That's the union classification of that position.
Okay. So the total savings to the Parks and Rec budget is 55.
Correct. If the Board of Finance chooses to eliminate.
You've got to work around with the other administrative assistants.
Correct, yeah. So really, this this line right here, where last year we budgeted 2,700 for additional part-time secretary help, admin secretary help. The third line from the bottom there, that's really where. So he'll have 35,000 to hire additional seasonal staffing. So essentially, so we're spending 90,000 for 3 seasonal staff. So this essentially adds one more seasonal staff from about April 1st to November 3rd, July 1st to.
So, all right, so just a couple of things to say there. One of the things is that seasonal line has already been reduced. So the 92 was already reduced by the first selectman. You can see in red there on the screen that it's already been reduced by $26,000. So in terms of the full-time position, we did propose swapping those positions, and we did that because not because we don't need an administrative position in the office, but the greater need was for increased maintenance in the parks. And it's a discussion we've had every year since I've been here it's my 3rd year now, going into this and trying to get additional resources for our parks to be able to maintain our operations. We have 7 parks that we really focus on maintaining, 3 beaches and 4 kind of athletic facilities. But we also do about another 20 properties that we help maintain around town. The job or the scope of the parks crew is growing. So trying to keep up and meet the needs of that is what we were trying to accomplish by shifting that position. So, I guess the question here, I appreciate the Public Works Director's comment. When this position leaves, getting it back is hard. We're talking about eliminating a full-time position. So next year, you can expect the Park and Rec Director to come back and ask for, to fill that position. It's hard. It's a big lift to add that position once it's gone. So, as a potential compromise, take kind of like what we do for the engineer. If you want to keep the position in the budget and fund it for a half a year or a quarter of the year or some portion of the year, that would be a step in the right direction for us. I think Kevin's statement about and even Joe's statement about, we do get busy in the spring. Right now, our parks crew, we've hired a couple of seasonal people right now to enhance the parks crew for the time when the grass is growing and the beaches are going to open and all that type of thing. So summer is critical for us. So, we have these seasonal staff members. We made it through last year with that number of parks maintenance people. I think we can get through this year as well, especially if we, use that seasonal money that we were going to use for the administrative position, but it doesn't really move the needle for us. It doesn't appreciably increase the care and condition of the parks. Just things like everything from maintaining hole-in-the-wall restrooms all year round now. That's not something we used to do. We have Darrow Pond. Didn't used to do that, now we do it. The fire stations that need their grass mowed that, the volunteers used to do, now we're on a position where, our parks guys go and maintain that. So there's just a lot of things like that that kind of add up, that we're trying to meet that demand, but, again, there are fiscal realities in town. My job is to tell you, do our best job to meet those, and with the resources you provide. So, I'm here to, I guess, advocate for Parks and Rec as much as I can, and to take your figure and do the best job we can with it.
So if I could play back what I think I just heard, is that Kevin and you have talked through a possible workaround that could reduce the budget by $55,000, and you'll still get the administrative assistant support that you need by using the other individual from a different budget.
Correct, but,
I heard you say that you'd like to not lose that position.
That's correct.
So us leave it in the budget at least to a proportion of a full-time job.
I would like to, I guess to be clear, maybe, and perhaps I wasn't, if we fund that position for half a year, say we bring on a person in January, at mid-year, or even April 1st, a quarter of the year. Like next year at this time, if we were hiring a full-time maintainer to come on just for a quarter of the year, and then we roll forward, we'll have an extra hand for the busy time, and we'll add that position back at that time. Struggle through this year and pick it up next year, in a better position to maintain the parks and properties around town that, that the community expects.
So that's, if I can paraphrase a little bit, it's sort of the same schema as to hiring a firefighter halfway through the year, or hiring a police officer halfway through the year. That's a full-time position, but you're not paying the full salary for that. Is
That would be, that's what I would say,
accurate?
yes. We could,
Okay.
yes, I think it would be, you'd save, whatever portion of the salary and benefits for the time. But once we do hire them, they're on for full-time, and then they would continue the following year in a full-time capacity. So there will be, the following year, you're looking at a built-in bump in your budget. That's correct.
So, you're already at a 4.6% increase this year compared to last year, which is in the zone that the board has generally felt comfortable with, and what we voted for the Board of Ed, for example. And so I guess I'm going to make a motion that we follow this sort of hybrid advice from the two of you, and reduce the budget not by 55,000, but by whatever that is in half, 27.5, so that you can retain a half-time position, and then you're less than 4.6, but you're not, drastically out of sync with what we've done to other departments. That's my thinking. 27.5 is my motion.
Do I have a second?
No, I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone thoughts?
I'll just say that while we've been trying to keep things below 5%, whatever, I think CPI has been trending around 3%. So I just don't want you to think that 5% is great for everybody, because I feel like if we did 5% every year, our budget would be, just continuing to. So not saying one way or the other about this vote. I just wanted to say that I much prefer that budgets came in under 3%, you know, generally speaking. I do know that, you know, the Parks and Rec, you know, we keep getting accolades about what a special town this is, and a lot of that is based on, you know, visitors coming to our beaches, our facilities here in town, and so I also just want to commend you on keeping everything nice and doing what we can. So, anyone else have anything they want to add? No? All right, the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify
Can we
by
just
saying.
check to see if Lauren is online?
Go to computer real quick.
I guess that would be.
Fire her back
Okay.
up, will you? I've never seen it do that before.
She may still come into being challenged with babysitter issues. So,
Okay.
okay, given so the motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
You may want to stay up there in case there's anything else that
Oh, okay.
people.
Maybe I was just being optimistic.
Yeah. So, anyone have anything else in regard to the Parks and Rec? I know I was kind of looking at equipment maintenance, and 2024 actual expense was $11,215. I don't know, Kevin, if you can see where we are throughout the year at this point. I know Jerry had requested 22,000. The Board of Selectmen just brought it down to 19,500. As we've gotten closer, so.
While Kevin is looking at that, equipment maintenance is the line item where we purchase, we repair tractors, mowers, things like that. So just for example, I have a request that's been sitting on my desk for a couple of months now for tires for one of the tractors that we groom the beaches with. 2 tires for that tractor are $5,000. So with the spending freeze, you know, it's sitting on my desk, and we'll sit there until the issue becomes either, the tractor won't operate without them, or we'll continue to roll the dice. But those pieces of equipment are things that we maintain. We do our best to keep them operational and running. So, I'll believe whatever Kevin tells me about what the balance in that account is today, but I can tell you that there are things out there that are being held off on purchasing right now because of, the spending freeze that we're in. So with that, Kevin, I don't.
Yeah, we did a transfer already in this line for $6,000. You spent $18,750. You have $4,200 encumbered. You have $1,200 remaining. But that's with a $24,250 budget. So that line's under some stress.
Okay.
Let me just see if there's any like one-time large purchases or anything like that in there.
I think we did some pretty significant repairs to the beach groomer, I believe would have been.
Let's see. Yeah.
HB Barber. I don't know if you're looking at names, but.
Irrigation, there's a repair for $6,000 in there. So, a lot of 350, 460, quite a few. Yeah, nothing's cheap anymore.
Okay. And how about in park and field maintenance? I know 2024, the actual was 40,751. The ask was 75. Board of Selectmen brought it down to 45. I'm just wondering if we could see where we're trending on that.
So we spent 42. We did a transfer in this line as well. There's 21,000 encumbered. But the original 50, we've spent 42 already.
And we still need an additional 21?
No,
Those are,
the
those are,
21's
that's money that's
encumbrances,
encumbered.
Open purchase orders, things that have been purchased or committed to
It's not
purchase.
gonna go over, that's.
Correct, yeah, yep, that's calculated in that 11,000 remaining.
But there was a transfer in.
Correct, for 25,000.
Hence his original 75,000 request.
And it's actually a budget line that's less than last year's budget after the Board of Selectmen got done.
Okay. I don't have anything else for this. Does anyone else have anything that they wanted to ask Jerry about in regard to?
No.
John, do you have anything else?
It's a small item, but I was looking at 58,100, the dues. It went from 605 to 1525, then to 1625 from the Board of Selectmen. And I was looking to reduce that number by $500. Would that be a problem?
The dues that we pay, yes, we have members of professional organizations, and yeah, I think Kevin can bring them up there. There's a National Recreation and Park Association that provides us with access to professionals from across the country to, look for best practices, publications, training, that type of stuff. You also see some for the New England Park Association, the New England Sport Turf Managers Association, and our local state Park and Rec Association. So, yeah, I think all of those are currently used. Whether or not,
My
Yeah.
question would be, why did it more than double from 600 to 1,500?
I don't see it doubling.
Well, it was 2024 was 605, and 2025 was 1525.
I guess last year, I think it was 1,000.
And maybe while he's looking at that, do you feel that all of them are providing different information, or is there any
They do.
definitive?
They do. They have different services, and I know it seems like money that's it keeps our staff members current on best practices. So when we're trying to maintain turf, those education classes or those the information we get from those folks, it's well worth the $2 or $3 or $400 that we're paying each of these organizations to have access to those experts and that information. The benefits that it brings back to the town is I think more than a $200 or $300 price tag that we
Yeah,
pay
it's
to that
hard to tell,
organization.
just, you look at it, it says New England Parks Association, then Connecticut Recreation and
Yep.
Parks Association. They sound so similar that just
Indeed, yeah. I think they do have different folk. There's even forest and park associations, and we don't pay that one. Connecticut Forest and Park Association. So, people that are more into trees or people that are more into turf care, the sport turf managers versus others. But certainly, yeah, I believe there's value in those. But if
Could you explain 56,190? Is it like a general term? It says materials.
56190, yes. And I guess we're working on trying to make these names more descriptive. But materials is basically, those are the materials that we use for parks. So it could be park seed, could be paint for lining the fields, infield clay for ball fields, fertilizer. Those are the materials. Park maintenance materials, mulch, stone dust, sand, things like that.
When you go to buy these materials, where do you go for them? Do you look around to see what the best price is?
Absolutely, yes. When we buy these materials, we have a purchasing policy that we conform to. We go out and we get, if it's really big things, we'll go out to bid for things, or if it's $1,000, we'll go get 3 competitive quotes and take the least of it. Absolutely.
Because right now that line item is $5,500. Could you work with $5,300? It's a $2,000 difference.
So if I'm hearing park materials, I think it'd be more on the line of 55,000, not 5,500.
I'm
Is
sorry,
that-
yeah, 55,000, 53,000. $2,000 difference.
And the screen that you just had up, Kevin, it showed a transfer out of 19,000.
Yep.
So what was that?
So those are those things that we just looked at. Like we've pillaged a bit from this account to pay for the necessary equipment that we're repairing and the park maintenance things that we had talked about. So some of those materials this is the source of those, at least part of those transfers.
So then,
Go ahead.
Sorry, you go first.
I was just going to say it's something that we can do because we have to do it. It's kind of a lesser of two evils. Ideally, we wouldn't want that to be doing that, but in this case, it was necessary.
So the prior account that had the 25 added into it, 19 came from this account.
yeah. So I'm just saying, so realistically, you're spending 19,000 less on materials.
In this
this
current
year.
year, we will be
And-
forced to do that. It's not going to put us in a super position for for obtaining materials right now going forward. A couple of things that happened that help us out a little bit. We did renovate Vets Field, for example, and that was a capital project, so we used capital money on that. We'll be spending less on materials, right now this spring on materials for vets because the field was just renovated. That's as an example of a way that we're going to be forced to make that work.
Yeah.
Again, in this volatile environment, I would imagine your materials costs are probably going to be jumping.
I think that's a safe assumption, yes.
Yeah. So in my mind, I think just leave this as it is. It's also less than last year's budgeted amount.
So, does anyone want to make a motion about this?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion for the Park and Rec line item of 56,190 materials to be reduced by $2,000.
I'll second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay?
So that's 3-2, right? So the motion carries. Hopefully you can work with that and hopefully you understand.
Yep.
Doing what we can. Does anyone have anything else for Parks and Rec? I think we're all set. Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you.
And so then,
If you're doing by people, Commission on Aging's here as well, right?
Okay, so, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
I
you.
said, I think Fire Department, Commission on Aging are also here,
Okay, so,
just based on how you
yep.
mentioned it earlier.
All right, so we want to go to East Lyme Fire Services. It's not easy keeping track of going back and forth through all these departments. So, in our discussions the other night on open positions, we did end up voting to not fill
Firefighter 13.
firefighter 13. And so with that, there will come some other savings through insurance and equipment, that type of thing, uniforms, whatever. So, in addition to that, you know, I don't know whether the training and fire prevention line has some room. That one went up 260%. I think there was some offset there, so 2025, it was 12,500, and then the department had requested 45,000. I think, I don't know whether, if you want to state your name and.
Eric Quinn, I'm the Deputy Chief, Deputy Fire Marshal for the East Lyme Fire Service. Kevin Gervais did let me know that you guys were going to cut Firefighter 13, so I went and reviewed the budget to see where that also could help drop and also save a little bit of money in some other spots.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So first off, uniforms. We would be able to reduce that by a total of $2,900 being the firefighter. But then we also looked at, we're probably not going to have as many part-timers that we originally thought we were going to. So we'd be able to drop that by 2,000.
So 2,000 in uniforms?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the grand total reduction.
Yes.
So since we're kind of doing things line item by line item, someone want to make a motion?
I make a motion to reduce the fire service line item of 56,101 uniforms, reduce that line item by $2,000.
I'll second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
So the motion carries 401.
When it comes to training and fire prevention, 10,000 of that increase is actually coming from the fire marshal budget. We consolidated all the fire marshal stuff into the fire service, so it's just one budget. 25 grand was for training, which is Connecticut Fire Academy classes, some of the materials, equipment. We need to get vehicles. We do have some training infrastructure that we have to use. The problem is when we train with something, by the time it's done, it's usually destroyed. So if we buy or get a junked car, the junk cars are getting harder to get for free. By the time we practice ripping it apart and then burning it a few times, there's nothing else we can do with it, and then we have to get another one. But looking at it, we were comfortable with losing $5 grand from that line item. I don't know what the number you were looking for.
We're looking for every last dollar everywhere.
So we were comfortable losing $5 grand there and still being able to maintain all the training that we have to do per OSHA and NFPA, so that we stay compliant with everything. And that's without going above and beyond the standards.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Before we do, I have a question.
Okay, well,
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, if we're hiring one less new firefighter, does that impact that particular line, the training line?
I would say marginally. There's probably a few less classes they would have to go through, probably a class a year, depending on their certification level. If they came to us with what we call a Fire 2 certification, they would have to go to an instructor class, probably within the first year, and that's a $500 savings.
Okay, so maybe that's the right number, is instead of reducing it by 5,000, it's 5,500 based on what you just said? Would you agree with that?
Well, I factored in that into the 5,000. When I first came up with a number, it was about 4,700, but I'm like, I should be able to find another $300 in there to make it an even 5.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay. So anyone want to make a motion there?
I'll make a motion that we reduce 58900 training and fire prevention from 45,000 to 40,000 based on his recommendation.
I'll second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
One abstention.
Motion carries 401.
We did have one more area in the operating budget that we identified, would be the medical supplies. So we do what we call an R1 response. So we use some limited medical supplies where on scene. Some of the stuff can be given back to us by East Lyme ambulance depending on what it is. So we are able to reduce that by 3,000, which reduces our overall operational budget by 10,000 if that's done with the other cuts.
So that would be under medical supplies. Okay.
I understand the 3,000 cut. I don't understand where the 10,000 comes from.
Oh, that was the collectively between those other cuts. The 5,000 from training and the 2,000 from uniforms. Yep.
Anyone want to make a motion there?
I'll make this motion. To reduce medical supplies, object 53521 by 3,000 for an appropriation of $15,000.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 401. Does anyone have any other things that they wanted to bring up in East Lyme Fire Service? No? Thank you very much, Eric, again. Oh, wait.
While Eric's here, can
Oh, do you wanna-
capital? Can we
yeah.
just go to I mean, 'cause
Yeah, because I know we were kind of thinking that there's in addition to operating, that we
Yep.
had gone through and tried to figure out a bunch of things in capital that we could also, maybe put off a year, because if we want to add to cash capital.
Yeah.
But if there's things that we could put off, then that will
I do have an
overall.
answer for that.
Okay.
So one thing we did differently in this capital from the previous capital is instead of having a capital line item for PPE and then for fire hose and then for equipment and then for SCBA's, we took all that and put it into one line item so that we would have one capital account for firefighting equipment, which included all those items. Because we never spent all that money each year because the needs each year changed. So we do have an item there in capital for firefighting equipment listed at $100,000. But there's a separate one for SCBA's that says $60,000. We were actually looking to remove that. As of right now, all of our SCBA's are compliant with all the codes and standards. And we've reduced a few of them so that we have what we need without a lot of extra fluff. So we'd be able to remove that $60,000.
And so this 60,000 would be coming out of the capital projects budget for this year's.
What does
request.
SCBA stand for, please?
That's a self-contained breathing apparatus. That's the air tank that you see firefighters wear on their backs. We keep them on every truck, and as of right now, everyone's within the years and the life that they're allowed to be in.
Scuba without the U.
Yes. All right. Anyone want to make a motion? Go ahead.
My turn, I guess. So I move to remove $60,000 from line 49. I don't know what the antecedent number
If you just
is.
list the project, the SCBA.
For the SCBA 45-minute cylinder. So then, by $60,000.
Second.
Second, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 401. I think that was it for the capital and fire service. Great, thank you. Again,
welcome.
appreciate, everybody helping us out here. No problem.
Thanks, Eric.
Kevin, do you want to read another updated number?
Sure.
Yep. Okay. 6.45%. We're getting there. And that doesn't take into account the 60,000 of cash capital we just removed. So let me just. $6.38. Commission on Aging? Commission on Aging?
Anybody else
Yeah,
here?
Commission on Aging. So, this is tab 418. And so, the overall budget as it stands right now is for $324,197. This is a 3.10% increase, and so I know probably the biggest part of the expenses in here, of course, is in personnel and bus drivers and program coordinator. And one of the things that kind of stuck out for me was the 34% increase in the bus driver. And I know it's a great service and stuff, but I also feel like, and I know I've brought this up before, we pretty much will provide rides, to anyone. And I'm just wondering if there isn't some way that we either means test or, have a way to just not do all of this. So I was going to suggest, a cut to the bus driver. Again, it went from 2024, 36,611, 2025 went up to 59,873, and now the request is 8301. I don't know, Kevin, can you see where we are right now?
I can. The one thing I just want everyone to know, and Kristen, if she comes up here, there was a full-time bus driver, I believe, in that 51619 line. Once that individual retired, that position, there's no full-time bus drivers anymore. Is that right, Kristen? Wasn't there? a
Yes,
full-time
that's
bus driver?
correct. I mean, we're doing the best we can with just all part-time drivers. I mean, these people have to get to their doctor's appointments, their haircuts, they don't have anybody. I did have CCOG do the test. I sent it to everybody, how the population in East Lyme is growing for seniors. They don't have any way to get there except for using the senior bus. We had 3 buses running today. It's just, the need's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We did cut our full-time driver. We are working on just part-time. I'm struggling every single day to keep them under their hours. I'm doing my best, but it's just, I mean, we have a gentleman that goes to work and it's raining, he's riding his bike. He didn't ride his bike yesterday because, you know, it was raining and he was afraid to fall, so we had to pick him up at work. You know, it's just, we are doing what we can, and we really can't, to cut this is, it's really gonna affect everybody.
And I know
For
like,
groceries
from my
and-
personal experience, you know, I had a mother who couldn't drive anymore, and we worked it out with getting Uber drivers, and family members were very active in following her through on her trips and doing that, and that's the only reason why I say, is there a way we can means test this? Because is there people may be able to afford calling a taxi or calling an Uber, but why would they even consider it if we're just providing things for free? And that's my only. I know it's a need, and it's
Yeah, people
it's
don't
tough
realize
to
how
see.
many people are alone and don't have family. That's the biggest thing. That's what I see. People just are alone. They have no way to get there. This is the only option. They're not using it as like a limo service, or they don't want to ride the senior bus. If they could, and if they could afford to do an Uber, and our folks don't know how to do an Uber. They don't know how to call for an Uber. I understand where you're coming from, and again, I mean, our budget does not have, we have a very small budget, and again, I'm working with part-time drivers, and it is very difficult to work with just part-time drivers. I mean, I gave up a full-time driver that was with benefits, and now I'm just asking to keep these, and we have great part-time drivers right now.
Yes, since they're part-time drivers, they do not receive any benefits.
There's no benefits.
And
Nope.
that's a big difference from when you had a full-time driver.
Yep.
And you still had part-time drivers in addition to that. And the number of riders has increased every year, hasn't it?
Every year.
And as you said, for this population, I don't think Uber is an option if they don't have family around. They would not know how to use it, most of them. And the taxi service in this area is poor at best. I think it's a vital service for part of our community that needs it. This is one of the smallest budgets in the town budget, and it's coming in at a 3% increase. The department also lost a social worker that went over to the youth family health. So in my mind, I don't think this is an area worth looking at.
And on this test, it was 27% of the population of East Lyme are over 65. And when I did it, it was 32% were over 60.
Do you have any?
I mean, I wish my drivers were here to talk, because on like Tuesday, we don't see them. They literally, they get the bus and they don't take a lunch. They don't get a lunch. Like they don't get a lunch. They're on the road the entire day.
Do you know what the average age is of the people that are using the bus? Just out of curiosity.
I do,
I'm
actually.
almost 65
It's
and
over,
thinking-
they're over
I
60. Like
remember.
I have to do quarterly reports to the state, and I just did that.
Uh-huh.
And most of them are over 60. We take some disabled, but very, very, very few.
One other service that these bus drivers provide is our town has recently lost, if I understood correctly, last week or the week before, the person that would go do the healthy home visits and nail clipping. And part of that toenail clipping was to make sure that people were doing okay. As a driver goes to a residence, that's just another part of a safety net for the older population, just to consider.
Yes, thank you, Rich. That's a big part of it too. People don't realize what our drivers do. They get to have their eyes on them, and they come back to us and say, "Oh, we're seeing a change in them." It's just they do more than just drive the bus.
And if I may, one other point, volunteering at Beechwood, most of the people are not ambulatory there. I'm sure that we have some of our riders are not ambulatory, or if they are, they're kind of barely in a walker, and I don't know that an Uber driver would necessarily be the best option, or a taxi driver.
No, and they have walkers and they have wheelchairs, so for them to go into an Uber, it's just not possible. And we do have Dollar Ride as well, and out of all the areas that use it, East Lyme seems to be using it the most. And those are strictly medical appointments. And right now, Dollar Ride, I think it's stopping the end of May because they've run out of funds until July 1 again. So they're not even going to be able to use Dollar Ride anymore. So they're really counting on us to get them to their appointments.
I agree with Rich that this is a good service to have. I know in some cases it's probably critical for some people. They can't get to the hospital or a doctor's office. So it's only a 3.1% increase. It's a small budget comparatively. So I think, in my opinion, it should just stay where it is.
Thank you.
Okay. Everyone good with that?
I agree.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. It's
Yeah,
have
and
to just explore everything.
yes, thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all your hard work. And I just am very passionate that they do need these rides.
could
We
tell.
see it every day. We get the calls, and right now I'm acting as the social worker, so it's I see it even more. But anyways,
Thank you, Kristen.
thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Okay. So, what? I think we have, I feel like I keep wanting to go back to animal control because that's where we had left off the other night. Not that I have anything for animal control, but just to go through, to keep moving forward in the book so we don't forget anything. Anyone have anything in animal control? Nope. And we took care of Public Works. Now we took care of Commission on Aging. Then we have Health and Welfare, Health and Human Services. I feel like this is it's like a one-line item budget, and I wonder why it's not either in the Commission on Aging or in the Youth and Family Services or Community Services. It just seems like, why is this on its own for just the VNA of Southeastern Connecticut?
Sally, same as last year,
Uh-huh.
and then the year before that. So we could move it somewhere. I think between the first selectman's office and the director of the Commission on Aging, and then I get roped into some of these emails and then just forward it to these two. So maybe we could move it, next year just into the Commission on Aging, or
And Kristen, since you're still here, do you have any thoughts on that?
So I'm sorry, so this is the VNA?
Yeah.
So the VNA is cutting the services for the senior housing complexes for wellness checks and blood pressure checks. But they're going to still do the indigent care, so to keep folks home that need that extra care. Yes, it'd be okay. I don't know why it's never been in our budget.
But do you think that's the appropriate place
I-
for it?
I do feel like it would, but I know my budget's going to go.
I just, for
Yes,
consistency.
and we are working
things
on,
that
just so
make
you know
sense.
too, so they also did the foot care clinic at the senior center, and they're stopping that, but we have found a podiatrist that's going to be coming, which is wonderful news. The cost is going to be going to the individual, but at a
By
great,
Medicare.
yep, so that's new, and we are working on getting somebody for blood pressure as well, so hopefully we find somebody for that. Yeah, it would be appropriate, because Kevin and I work on that all the time.
Yeah.
So, Christian, just a question. Does the VNA provide services to those who are not seniors?
Not on that line, I don't believe. No.
Oh, okay. That was my only question, that if they served a population outside of the seniors.
Yeah, the only thing I see coming is
Mature
all
audiences.
seniors,
Yeah.
right?
I don't see any ages on there, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're going to the senior housing complexes, so
Oh, okay.
maybe some disabled that are over there, very few, for blood pressure and just some wellness checks, but,
You up for taking on another hat?
yes, of course I am.
And then, Kevin, where are we year-to-date on this? I believe the
I-
Board of Selectmen proposed 12,500 from the 15,000 requested. The actual in 2024 was 8,727, and then
I know we're up there, even, let's see.
and then the adopted 2025 budget was 10,000.
So we are 75, so it looks like we're 100% expended, that's because it's all encumbered to the same vendor. But we've spent year-to-date $7,400, and we're just a little past 75% of the way through the year. So that's tracking. The bills have increased a little bit. Let me just share my screen for a second. Let's see what we got here.
And that program is extremely beneficial, just keep people home and not into the hospitals.
Yep.
So you can see it's about 1,000 a month. So there's a few months where in the dead of winter it was $625. It picked up a little bit, but we right around $1,000 a month. So that's where that $12,000 figure came from.
So, but right now, after the Board of Selectmen, is it 12,500?
Yeah. We could get $500.
Yeah. If that would,
Who knows?
I'll make a motion to reduce it from 12,500 down to 12,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All
Yes, I believe changes have occurred with VNA since they were acquired by Yale New Haven. And it would not surprise me if their fees would go up with the acquisition by Yale New Haven rather than remaining the same. So my feeling is to leave it at the 12,500. It was already reduced from 15,000.
So the fees do increase annually, but this particular vendor is not doing it anymore. So the Yale New Haven's, right, they're stopping at least half of this program,
They're stopping the wellness part.
The one
which is
that's-
about $6,000 a year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So removing that, about what would the cost be per year with the vendor?
I'm not really sure how, because I never paid, it was not in my budget, so I'm not really clear. We just got a recent bill from them.
So I'm not confused.
Only now?
So I'm appreciating the cost per month, and then you're saying also that they're not gonna get the wellness checks. And yet the costs have remained at a rate that seems like it should include the wellness checks.
They're sunsetting as of June 30, 2025, so it hasn't
Correct.
stopped yet.
But then there's another indigent care, it's different than the wellness.
So they provide two different services.
So we're swapping in indigent care.
We've had both,
And we're not getting, well,
but, right,
But it sounds like, wouldn't the bill go
down.
cut in half?
We never know how many people they're going to be servicing. So sometimes they have 6 people on their caseload, sometimes they have 1. It depends on how folks are. So we're,
Well, with removing the wellness component, and that it would be limited to indigent care.
but we also do want to bring in somebody for blood pressure, so that we will have to pay them. If we,
you can get a cuff
That's what I was just gonna say.
for $50 at CVS.
But does a medical professional have to do
I
it?
think it has to be a medical professional. Because actually at the senior center, our receptionist was a nurse, and she was doing blood pressure checks because the librarian was an EMT, and she moved. So when we hired a new receptionist, she says, I would love to be able to do that. So she would just do blood pressure checks, but she's no longer a nurse.
I guess I mean, is this just like a nicety, or are we providing medical care? You know,
I tend to agree with that. So
Again, I don't know how it all started. It started way before me. It was started before Kathy Wilson was here. So over 30 years ago it started.
yeah, I'm
just
thinking
a
of the.
screen, and it gives us an idea of whether or not they need to go get medical care by a medical professional.
Correct.
And I would actually be kind of nervous that the town ends up taking on some liability if someone takes the blood pressure wrong and the person goes home and has a heart attack, and now, we read
So this is the bill, like, this is what we get for a bill. So, so you can see there's 9 cases of indigent care at $100 a piece. I think now it's $125 a piece. There was nursing hours at the senior center, and then there's flu clinics, which I haven't seen.
Yeah, we haven't had a flu clinic
Yeah.
with the VNA.
But it's on the bill. So, I mean, that's an example of a $1,300 bill. So that's kind of, when we see some of these, that's where that $15,000 number comes in. And then relatively recently, they mentioned that they were cutting some of their services back. So we've been trying to talk with other towns, see what they're doing. We talked to the Board of Ed to see if we could hire their nurses at overtime, or see if any of their nurses wanted to part-time, to kind of go from one of those schools just over to the senior center to do a clinic. So we've explored a few options here on this $12,000 line.
Sorry.
Well, back to what Scott and Denise were saying. Seems like nobody knows how we got into this business. It's kind of like our services to community. Most of that was a black box. It still sort of is. At least you guys have a protocol for applications now. Yeah, I believe very much in the service, but is it within the remit of our town?
I know the senior housing complexes have been emailing me about doing the blood pressure checks and wellness checks still. They really count on them.
And when you're saying that the senior complexes, are you talking AHEPA
AHEPAs, yeah.
specifically?
Specifically AHEPA.
Wonder
The 3
if
buildings.
AHEPA could just hire a part-time person to do blood pressure checks.
Well, I think the director of AHEPA emailed all 3 of us
Mm-hmm.
asking to continue it. So I don't.
They did,
Yeah,
yes.
so I don't think they were. I don't think they were looking to hire someone on their own.
Yeah.
But that sounds like a discussion worthy for the first selectman and the Commission on Aging director.
Well,
Let me know the impact.
Yeah, this was.
So Denise, bottom line for me, where I was thinking this would not have any cuts, I don't know it's something that we can remove today.
that's
And
exactly what I was
would-
just gonna say.
And I would, yeah, that could be for future discussions, and that would fall to the Board of Selectmen, not to us. We don't make policy. And I would tend to agree with you about the 12,000 from the 12,500 with the loss of the wellness visits. So I would make a motion to change the line from for community services 55,990, the VNA of Southeastern Connecticut, reduce it from 12,500 to 12,000.
I'll second.
You
Any
guys already had a
discussion?
motion on the table.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I did. I forgot that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or it's just been reinforced.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Double reinforced, Rich. It's okay.
Double
Well,
down on
I was
it.
taking the motions just in case, the meeting
Yes.
doesn't,
It's my community of aging.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting things.
Okay, so the
Me too.
motion has been made and seconded, and any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the
I'm
motion.
going to abstain because I don't understand. I really don't.
Okay, so motion carries 4-0-1.
And
And
I don't
then,
know just how it's done, but if we can move this into the, that'd be great, but
And
that's
I would-
outside our.
yeah, so a recommendation to investigate, and if it makes sense, move this into the Commission on Aging. And then, Dan, if you can take a look and really, should we be in the business of
Yeah.
providing medical?
No, I think this is worthy of a larger discussion, and I'm glad we raised it. There are a lot of issues going on with, the VNA, the blood pressure, who should be providing these services. And we do have Ledgelight out there, the health district. What are they willing to do? What can they do?
Good point.
And the biggest problem is the toenail clipping, because there is because there's a lot of liability attached to that. That's
Yeah.
why no one wants to get into it.
Yeah.
You cut somebody and then it goes up, they have an infection. So it's
Infection.
really, it's a high liability enterprise, the toenail clipping. So, but not so much the,
And I do know with the toenail clipping, the VNA wasn't comfortable with a nurse coming anymore. They wanted it to be strictly by the doctor. So now we do have a doctor coming.
there you go.
Yeah, which,
But I'll explore it, and that's on my plate.
Sounds good.
all right,
Thank
all
you.
right, thank
Of
you.
course.
Oh, and Kristen,
Yes.
for the doctor that's taking care of the toenails, that's covered either by Medicaid or Medicare?
They're going to pay out of pocket. It's going to be $45 for their first visit, and then $35 after that. And he's coming for a full day. The VNA was only coming, I believe, for half a day, so he'll be coming once a month. And he also goes to many senior centers in the area.
So
But
this
but
He's-
Medicare does cover for like every quarter,
yeah,
so.
Okay.
and so this.
Yeah,
would be-
I'll double check. Candy was working on that, our program coordinator with him. We found him, and then she did all the other work on it, so I'll make sure.
Great. So this will be at the senior center, whereas before.
No, this has always been at the senior
always-
center.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah, we do it in our arts and crafts room. Yes,
So-
but we've had a wait list forever, and they weren't taking new people. They were taking the same people every 2 months.
Yeah.
So now by having him there all day long, we're hoping to get more people to be able to service.
So when you say doctor, you mean podiatrist?
Podiatrist.
Right, okay.
Yes, podiatrist. Yes. Thank you.
And fortuitously, I do have a department head meeting tomorrow, and I should have a representative from Ledgelight. The director usually attends. And maybe after the meeting, I can just broach the subject.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so then in terms of, we did Parks and Rec. Youth and Family Services, I think is where, so, and I believe in Youth and Family Services, that's one area where we have an open, right, because they.
Correct. Social worker?
Social worker. And they also have 72% increase under program coordinator, secretarial admin. So they went from 51,000 in 2025 to requesting 138,705. The first selectman proposed dropping that to 87,906. Then the board increased it to 103,934. And where are we now in the year?
So, the original budget for the 138 had we can go over this real quick. The original 138 had a wellness prevention coordinator, part-time for half the year, and becoming full-time halfway through the year. That position was previously filled by the director. The director, when the department was created, was promoted to the Youth and Family Service Director. That position was then backfilled part-time to save the benefits. And the Youth and Family Services initial proposal was to make that, half-year full-time equivalent. Also add a case manager, administrative secretary / case manager, it looks like, for $33,000, and then add and the social worker move to the Youth and Family Services versus where it was in the Commission on Aging. So we were going from one full-time one full-time position to 2 full-time and a part-timer. With the first selectman's cuts, that was to eliminate the case manager, as well as reduce the social worker and the wellness prevention coordinator both to 28 hours, which would eliminate benefits that neither of them currently have, because one is still part-time, the other is an unfilled position. The Board of Selectmen added back, let me just pull it up here. I don't remember off the top of my head. They did
16,000.
So the 16,000. I just want to see what the tie-out is. So the $16,000 is fully funding the social worker, and 103. Is it 103,934?
Yes.
So it looks like what I see here is, based on this number, the social worker is a full-time position starting July 1, and the wellness prevention coordinator appears to be part-time at 28 hours. Let me just double check the numbers here.
And Dan, what were your thoughts with your
Well, I think we
original
were
proposed?
trying to reduce, save the medical benefits by keeping one as part-time. But I think that the board wanted to reinstate that, would have been a half a year? We would have
Full
said?
year social
A
worker.
full year, yeah. And, there was some discussion, some talk about, let's see what happens with the cannabis money, see if that would help, once we have a better sense of what might be coming in from that, then perhaps we could use that money down the road to increase the position that to another part-time. Would be a part-timer that we would have been able to.
No, so the idea
Was
there's a few different pockets of money, right? So we have the opioid settlement money, which we provided a couple meetings ago. There's north of $150,000 in that account, and every year, $10,000-15,000 gets deposited into that account. There is the local cannabis tax from the new cannabis dispensary that opened up on the Never Eat Shredded Wheat west side of town. And there's also
And the first month was
$1,445. I just emailed it over. We got it today. So they sold approximately $50,000 of recreational cannabis. We get 3% of that, so it's roughly $1,500. They're hoping that ramps up, obviously, in the next couple of years, next couple of months. The third pocket of money, we are moving out the wellness, the youth service grant, the youth service enhancement grant, and the LPC grant are all being moved out of the general fund and into the grant fund. So those three those three grants could fund, a wellness prevention coordinator, those three, the state grants plus the opioid plus the local cannabis could fund one of these positions, right? I know there's specific guidelines over it. We'd have to see, which one.
We have to be careful of making
Yeah,
sure.
it would be the wellness prevention
Yeah.
coordinator could definitely pay for that, because that's the whole purpose of that position is
Right.
to, the opioid settlement money is a perfect use of that for that individual.
It's consistent.
So,
The board really perceived that that this was an important service to provide, and that's why they added the 16,000 from 28 back in.
Rich?
Yes, if I remember correctly, and I've had bad memory already tonight, the social work position was something that was initially an ARPA-funded position, and it was kind of left in it as part-time. No?
so the wellness prevention coordinator was funded through ARPA, as well as the social work position. Social work position was filled, was full-time. They both were full-time, and at least for a portion of it. And then within the last 18 months, the senior center also received an ARPA grant for right around $50,000, and that was funding half of this current year's social worker through
Okay.
December 31st.
Okay.
So they were splitting it, right? They were splitting the social worker.
The social worker's time was being split, but
Split,
the
yeah.
budget was being split, half in the Commission on Aging's budget, and then half in the ARPA fund,
Okay.
right?
Right. And just for public information, how many hours can you go up to part-time without having to give benefits?
It has to be under 30 hours.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
And
that's kind of where that 28-hour, 7 hours a day, 4 days a week gives you that 28 hours.
right. Okay. And how confident are you with these grants that are currently in the grant fund being able to be sustainable year to year?
I mean, with the opioid settlement funds, I could pull it up. I thought there was, I know there's north of 150,000 in there, right? As long as that cannabis dispensary stays open, I think we can, at least $1,000 a month, if not 2,000 is probably reasonable. So that's 24,000 a year. The youth service grants, I mean, the governor is pushing for more money there, so I don't foresee that going away. The LPC grant, I think that stands for local prevention. I don't know what the C stands for, something local prevention. I think those are things that are kind of on the state's radar, so I don't think they'd go away.
Okay. So
But
it sounds
that's-
like we have sustainable funding for the positions. To be
Outside,
full,
I think we
one
have,
to at least to be full-time.
correct, yeah.
Okay. Even with the restrictions in some of the
Yeah.
grants.
Yeah, I think I think the job description of that wellness prevention coordinator is to educate people and prevent them from doing
Okay.
harm and things like that.
Yeah, because, it may be under the Youth Family Human Services Department, but it's not just youth that these individuals will be servicing, it'll be the
Seniors.
aging as
Yep.
well. So,
And I just also
Kristen, I
would
think
like
you
to,
had something to add.
yes, if I could just add, so we did have the social worker, and she did leave for more money and benefits. So just wanted to bring that up, that if we do reduce the hours and, no benefits, it's going to be really tough to get that person that is going to do the best
which
for the
do you
town.
feel is a more critical role, the social worker or the case manager?
I'm not going to speak.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Yes,
It is another layer, that
it
we.
is. They're both needed.
We have the initiatives that the Board of Ed has taken with, counseling for resources for young people. This is another layer. And given, what's going on in the world today in society, I think it's important that we, to the extent we're able to, provide some service in that area. I think it's important for what it's worth.
Okay, and
So at the end of this year, we'll have 173,000 in opioid settlement money. Right now, we have 169.
And Dan, you think from a policy perspective, you would be supportive of
I
having
am.
all those grant funds dedicated to this?
I do. I mean, I really think that's, the whole idea is to provide counseling services and, in a sense, mental health wellness, and it's an important initiative. It's, we've started something here, and I think it's important to continue to support it.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing I just want to mention, I thought it was only 10, 15,000 we're getting a month. As you can see here, we currently have accumulated 169,000. This is the only payment that hasn't come in yet for this current fiscal year, but next year we're anticipating 32. We're anticipating $30,000 for the next 8 years, and then it goes down a little bit to 20, 27, 20s, and then it sunsets in 2039.
That's the opioid.
That's the opioid settlement funds, yep. So, I mean, if we end up pushing that position at 50,000 a year, we're going to eat into 20,000 a year into that $170,000 we have there. It's going to take 8.5 years before that drops to zero. So, and that's not including the local cannabis money we have, and the other 3 state grants.
Okay. And in terms of the other operating expenses and services, are on track
Yeah, this
year to
is
date?
Let's see. Shut this off. So let me just go through.
Why is it that opioid and cannabis only go to support youth and Commission on Aging? Is that
I think
a lot?
trying to, no, there's certain things you can do with an opioid. Trying to tie the problem with the
There are certain restrictions on how it can be used, and having the social worker and the counseling is a legitimate use for that money. So it gives us a place to spend it. I was in conversation with the first selectman of Salem, and they have some of this money that they're receiving as well, but they don't really have a good place to spend it right now. So that's why I've been in conversations with them. Maybe we can partner somehow with our youth and family services and to maybe provide some level of service to them and give them a way to help fund what we're doing. So
Since we have to
you get the money, you gotta find a place to spend it that's permissible. So
That sounds like a
we're fortunate in that sense, we have a place to spend it.
So, the office supplies line, that's like the miscellaneous supplies account, originally budgeted 12,000 last year, came in at 17,150 this year, was cut just about in half by the first selectman. That is trending to be about half spent. I know there are some things, she's looking to do a townwide mailer, to do some things like that with that funding. So let me see the other accounts here. The technical supplies account is about halfway spent. But I know there is some lumpiness here. I know she was planning on spending some money for the National Night Out. That didn't happen. And I also know they do ski club, and they pay for the buses for ski club and not the tickets. and that was a couple $1,000s. I don't know if that's been paid yet.
You know, as we were talking about, you know, reducing postage, I would think that, you know, we already put out like a monthly East Lyme booklet. Maybe that would be, rather than a separate mailer, a section on it in there. You know, I think we just, more and more people, just anything that comes in the mailbox just gets thrown out.
I've got no fundamental objection to the positions that are being requested. I'm just finding that this has been the most confusing documentation of what you have been describing. It's just, I can't synchronize what you're saying with what I'm seeing on these papers. But I'm believing you've got the numbers right up there, but
Trust but verify. Well, let's hope the numbers are working.
The budget book is not consistent with what you've been describing.
All right, so that's unfortunate. What? Any particular questions you have?
I'm just venting.
Yep.
And I'm not really. I'm actually supportive of what I've heard.
So, but like, can you point to an example of what you're looking at versus what's on there? Because we do want you to have the right
every single
information.
number you said, I couldn't find. Every one.
All right, let's, well, because I imagine if you have a question, other people at home might have a question, so, so just to walk through, so the initial work papers you have there, what you see in white right here, is what the department had submitted, and then over here is kind of where we did our little Board of Selectmen calculation to get to that 103,933. So, so right here, the prevention wellness coordinator, the hours kind of, you
So
know.
that's not in the book, is what you said.
Yeah, this was, we put salaries in the book, but sometimes the spreadsheet gets too small, no one can read the numbers. So the wellness prevention coordinator, which was originally asked for 45,300, which was half of the year at part-time at 28 hours, which she currently works, and then as of Jan 1, 2026, the other 6 months go to full-time, 37.5 hours. The first selectman cut that back to 28 hours, as currently is for both of those. Board of Selectmen agreed, did not touch that number, but they did increase the social worker position down here. So social worker was originally was originally full-time. The proposal was full-time. The first selectman cut it back to 28 hours for both the 6 month tranches. The Board of Selectmen added it back. So that's the $16,000 add back there. Did that kind of help you out at all, Scott?
Yes.
You know, if I may, of all the budgets in this book, this is the one I have the most trouble with too. I mean, because you have the social worker, there's half, it's confusing. I get it, and
Thanks for the validation.
yeah. So, but I think when you look at the numbers on the side and really take the time and multiply it all out,
Here we go.
it verifies what we're trying to accomplish here. But
Right.
I think it's confusing too.
I will zoom in. I apologize for being confusing.
No,
Let's see here.
it's not blaming
It's
you.
okay. Okay, so prevention coordinator. Oh God, circular references. Prevention coordinators, 40,666. That's a bad omen. Social worker, 63,267. We had them together, 103,933. 83. We shaved off $1. So, and then this is just their hourly rate, hours they work a week, number of weeks, because we were dividing it at the time into half, using July 1 through Jan 1, and then Jan 1 through June 30 to try to save some money with full-time equivalents and benefits, things like that. Does that make sense for everybody? Why there's two, I see it now. It's harder when you actually create this. It's hard.
Yeah, you're splitting the year in half, right? You had the
Yep.
26 and
Yep.
26.
So that way, if we wanted to say, okay.
We had
well,
the
we only do-
flexibility of pulling it out if because we were trying to split the year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Save money, shave it where we can.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to those two positions, right?
So that's where you get you get the bottom line, the 103, 933. So those are the two positions.
And so if we wanted to move one position to being grant funded, I would make the recommendation for the prevention coordinator, or the wellness prevention coordinator at the top to be moved to the grants. If either of those, that one's more likely to meet more of the grant guidance. It will meet the grant guidance. That's
It
the
will.
position itself, right?
But-
If we,
No, no, go ahead.
if we do move it to grants, does it come out of this?
It comes out of our
Budget.
general fund, it comes off the tax burden, and moves to be funded by the grants.
Correct.
But we don't have to make any change in this particular budget itself.
Correct, it's on the front sheet.
It will, it'll be noted, kind of like with Parks and Rec, where they show the revenue from different grants or from, fees. So it shows how certain things get paid for rather than just through tax.
So the source of the funds that pay for it would be,
From
to that
grants.
extent.
We would need a motion to move it out of the general fund. Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
Just wanted to make sure we all on the same page there.
yes.
Okay.
But I was just saying, we wouldn't be changing this particular
Correct.
line item
Correct.
on this particular budget,
It's
but
still
we
gonna
would be,
exist, we're still gonna fund the position, it's
Yeah.
just gonna source the funds for the position from a different place.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it should impact the mill rate.
Mm. Yep.
Favorable.
yes.
Okay, right.
Favorable.
So that's all, we all understand that, right?
Yep,
So,
so-
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
40,000.
No, I'm checking myself too.
Okay.
And,
So,
and additionally, this department gained a social worker that had been within the Commission on Aging. So they've been able to increase their personnel, but yet still just have a 2.35% increase in their budget, if I'm reading this correctly. Yes and no?
It's not, it's an 8% increase.
Oh, okay.
so I guess before we make any kind of motion there, I just want to make sure that, was anyone looking to cut any positions and back? Just want to make sure if everyone is good with the 103,934 as is, reflecting those positions.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Yes.
Fine, okay. So then, now that that's set, I guess we need a motion to move the funding for those positions, no?
So
How do you want to say it?
So now that we have a grant fund set up,
Yeah,
I would recommend that we just remove that position from the general fund budget and move it to the grant fund. So move the 40,666 for the wellness prevention coordinator out of the general fund and into the grant fund to be paid for by the various youth family service grants.
Inputs to that fund. Yep.
what he said, I make that motion.
I second that.
Let's just vote.
Yeah, motion has been made and seconded. All those in, any further discussion? Please no. Oh, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No, that motion carries.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, perfect.
Kevin, thank you for that explanation. I think I really get it now too.
So essentially then, does this budget line change?
Yep, so we
Okay.
just eliminated about 41,000 from this budget line. However, there's, we have north of $200,000 of grants in the grant fund to pay for this position, right? And then every year, so we're talking 41,000. Opioid settlement itself's given us 32,000 for the next 8 years. So we're only offsetting really $8,000, and there's we have 5 or 6 other grants we can tap into. So
Okay, so this would adjust our, bottom line, this would
Correct.
adjust our
I
General
generally don't like paying for personnel with grants, especially when we know they're sunsetting, but
Yep.
it's 2039, we're 14 years out, right? I think it's a little different knowing that we have a 15-year, grant or settlement fund where we're getting paid.
Just make a note in your calendar for.
Yeah, 2037, we'll start
Yeah.
worrying
I'll
about
take it off my worry list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so. unless-
6.3%.
So, and did anyone have any other that they wanted to say about this budget?
Oh, this budget.
Yeah. So I think that does mean we have gone through every department. So then I would just look to my fellow Board of Finance members and see whether they had further things that they wanted to bring up. That either, from previous budgets and you've looked at it some more. Anything else that you want to? I was gonna do that after, I just wanted to make sure that everyone has had a chance to talk about
Okay,
whatever
and-
department and if they wanted to make any other.
Yes, I think Kevin had a little shopping list of, I think there was something for IT, I remember.
Oh, boy.
What it was, I can't remember, but there were a few things that we were gonna check up on.
Rich, I had a
4
call
action
in.
items.
The what?
4 action items.
I did 3 of the 4 action items. I did not get, where's my darn notes here? The only one I did not get was the shared versus the Adobe thing. Remember that? Hold on, let's go through the notes. Shared versus dedicated licenses. I did not get an answer to that one.
Oh, okay.
I emailed the emergency management, so we can look at that real quick. We emailed police and have a response for that. So I can go through those emails real quick and see where we ended up. I did not hear back from the planning office on their Zoom subscription. And then, I think that's all I had.
So, I did speak to the acting chief of police about anything that he could do. And he said that we could reduce the 54300 repair and maintenance. We could reduce that by 3,000 and bring it to 24,000.
Is that under dispatch or under police budget?
This would be under police.
And Andrew, what was the number you said you could bring to?
54300.
Down to,
Reduce it by 3,000 and bring it to 24,000.
it's right now at 25.
That's,
I'm sorry, Denise, what account was it again?
his
Right.
email said 54300. So,
Stand by.
so he was probably going from he requested 27,000. So he was probably thinking 27 minus 3 to get to 24, probably forgetting that it had already been reduced by the Board of Selectmen. So I guess from there we could make a further reduction by the Board of Finance of 1,000.
I'm lost. What's the account number? I'm sorry.
It is
54300 repairs and maintenance?
54300.
Okay, sorry guys.
So
Oh, right here,
he's
okay.
suggesting he could go to 24,000.
Okay.
So, I'll make the motion to reduce 54300 by 1,000 to 24,000.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries 500. Can you bring up the public relations line there? You know, I just was sort of thinking about that, and we had cut it originally. My thought process was just that would be something that wouldn't affect public safety so much, but I think that it is really important to foster a good relationship with the police and our community. I know I made a point when I was getting my coffee today to stop and thank one of the officers for everything they do. And you know, listening to Mike and the stuff that they deal with every day, if people really, you know, saw all of the things that they do and see, you know, maybe there would be a greater appreciation. So, to tell you the truth, I'd rather restore that line item.
How about go halfway with you?
Well, maybe I'll make the motion, and then if it doesn't pass, we can make another one. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
I will make a motion to restore that to the original 4,000, so that our police can participate in a number of different community interaction events. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by
Just
saying
one
aye.
I just got
Oh,
one comment.
sorry.
Just one
Yep.
comment was, I mean, I thought we reduced that because part of it was the night out money, because we weren't paying we didn't have it this year, so we wouldn't be
Yeah.
buying supplies again, or.
So, so Mike also gave me a little bit more about, it takes care of the Citizen Police Academy and required materials, National Night Out, pays for ads we have to put in the newspaper for found property by statute and town ordinance, purchases of items we hand out to groups that tour the building, which is usually children groups. He was planning on an open house here, which would have had a cost to it, and others here giving suggestions on what we could do to foster better interactions with the community. So I guess it was a little bit more than I was aware of.
Could I comment? I don't want to overstep my bounds with the board.
Please do.
You know, there's the elephant in the room. We've got, you know, a lot going on with our police department. And I think if there was ever a year when we try to help restore morale, this is it. So if the board could see fit to, at least for this year, restore that and help us to promote them and present them in the best light possible to the public, I think that's particularly important right now.
Thank you.
That seems very reasonable.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, the motion carries 401.
Anything else that we asked the police department?
About the training.
Testing accreditation, I think was the other one.
So,
Did you respond to that as well? Let's see.
so he said testing and accreditation was already reduced, and I should say, he offered to be here tonight, but he did have a conflict, and so, so he provided this. So he said testing and accreditation was already reduced by 24.77%, or 8,232, since we paid out the other 50% to CALEA. We didn't need that money as well for 2 recruits. But now I have to keep in mind and look at the entire fiscal year. The reduction was based on us being at staff capacity. Now we are 3 people understaffed. And when we hire new people, the money will be required out of an already reduced line that is not taking into account having to replace numerous people. A new hire evaluation is $1,100 for psych, $300 for poly, $57 for drug test. If we do that 3 times, that's $43.71 coming out of a line where the money is needed somewhere else. We have a set number of officers per year that have to go through similar evaluations based on state law. So this also carries areas that they need to maintain accreditation with the state, which is also by law. So, so with that, I wasn't thinking of doing anything there.
That explanation is satisfactory.
There was one other line that we had talked about, was 51,800, that with the reduction in the requested 2 police officers, the department had requested 70,000. It was left at 70,000 by the Board of Selectmen and the first selectman. Is there any reduction in the payment of salaries for that training?
Is that the, he responded to us on that one too, or maybe just to me. There are many unfunded mandates put on by the state that our hands are tied. The training payroll we need to keep that funding for the officers. Last year we spent $71,250 with the $68,000 for this current year, starting at a deficit from last year's actual. We're already getting close to fully expending that. I must make what is left last until the end of the year, but I anticipate having to do a budget transfer sometime this year to cover the overage. We don't want to end up in a situation where there's a potential liability for failing to train our officers.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I think it's not just the new police officers. You know, the police officers we currently have still have to go through ongoing training. So.
So, I don't have anything else there for, maybe something for the CIP, but,
Do we want to turn over to that?
Hmm?
Do we want to turn over to the CIP?
Sure.
Okay.
For,
What number is that?
so, going back to the CIP.
The long page, those legal pages? Yep, perfect.
Oh, no,
Okay, some other legal page that we already got
so
last week.
capital project budget. So, you know,
And I'll share my screen for this.
similar to the East Lyme Fire Service where we, you know, put off the scuba, we were trying to look at other ways that we can maybe put off something else in our,
This is it, okay, great, thank you.
in our cash capital CIP. And we've got a sign. We have a speed trailer and a digital sign trailer that is in this year's CIP, one for $12,500 and one for $17,000. So, sort of the
overarching theme here has been like our assets keep growing, right? And whether it's cars or trucks or whatever, even some of this other equipment is all, it's purchases, it's maintenance, it's, so we were just, I was just thinking that maybe rather than 2 trailers in this year's budget, maybe we just do the digital sign trailer and put off a speed trailer into maybe the next year.
What do we already have?
I believe they have at least 2. So I think this was
Each.
a third. I don't know about the speed trailer. I know the digital sign. We have at least 2. And I think there was more of a need for the digital sign trailer because we do, when there's a big town event, we need at least 3 of them. I can't really speak to the speed trailer, but I know the digital sign trailer was,
Main.
yeah.
So I was going to make a motion that we move the $12,500 speed trailer out to next year's CIP.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Does anyone want to discuss it? Kevin, are you trying to get an answer from someone?
Sort of.
Am I correct in assuming that the digital sign trailer can be used not just to describe events, it can also be used as a speed warning system? You could write whatever you want, I guess.
I don't know if it has like that radar gun or whatever it is.
I'm
to-
not asking for it to, just to inform people of.
Slow
the
down?
speed limit. Yeah, slow down, yeah.
Yeah, so I know it does have software on it, where I think even remotely they can connect to it and change what it says, because I think they use it on all the, big event days, if there's a storm for evacuations, things like that.
It sounds like you can get a little bit of the speed trailer functionality out of this digital sign trailer.
Perhaps. I mean, I think anything that's out there that looks like it's official, people will probably slow down to read it
To
or
read it, yeah.
figure out what it means. But,
So, any further discussion? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No, that motion carries. We will,
I did get a text. No.
no,
Um,
it can't operate
I think
as
where
a speed.
as the speed camera,
Yeah.
it goes, yeah, that's a big no. But I mean, you probably could put a sign that says slow down, but to everybody.
Nobody knows there
yeah.
isn't a
hold
radar
on.
detector on it.
We got the bubble. We got the bubbles. We're getting a second text. Nothing yet. I'll tell you if it can't be calculated.
For that line replacement police vehicles outfitted, do we know how many that 160,000 is?
2.
2?
Yep. So in the CIP, we're budgeting, I believe it's 2 replacements every year. They're on the 7-year replacement. We have 14 vehicles. And you'll know if we go to the general fund just for a second, you don't have to flip to it if you just want to look at the screen real quick. In revenues, down here at the bottom, 160,000 is operating transfer in from police outside service revenue. So it's a
Right.
1-to-1.
Right.
It's not funded, taxpayer based. It's funded right through the private duty,
Okay.
outside service.
And so when you said 7-year cycle, that was misspoken because we've got useful life of 5 years on this sheet. The administrative vehicle is a 7-year life?
Chief, I know you're watching. Is the administrative vehicle 5 or 7 years? I know the patrol cars, we're looking to do 2 a year. And so, 2 a year, I believe there was 14 of them. 5 years, admin 7. Patrol is 5, admin 7. So, I love this.
And how many admin vehicles is the 64,000?
1 vehicle.
1 vehicle.
Yep. Because, it needs a light package, and even though it's an administrative vehicle, it still needs some equipment in it.
Oh, okay.
So not quite as much as the interceptors, but it still
Right.
needs lights and things like that.
Okay.
How'd I do, Mike? Just looking good so far. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So I'll go back to.
So also in public safety, one of the things that we talked a lot about in the CIP was drones, like the police were looking for a drone, fire marshal was looking for a drone. We could see where it has a lot of application, but it's a year where we're also putting a lot into the whole public safety communications infrastructure. That's 650,000, plus the tower, which is 105,000. So while the CIP committee did recommend that we, get the drone, I'm just thinking that would have been paid for in cash capital. And if we could move that out a year, and Eric's still here, he could probably, our thought process was maybe if you had a real emergency, would we have other areas that we could call on to get help with drones if we needed to?
Yeah, currently the Waterford Police have a drone, the State Police have a drone, and I believe there's 2 fire departments in the Colchester area that also have drones.
So we could probably call on them for help for a year if we push this out.
Yes, and we've called for assistance with drones twice in the last year.
Okay.
And they came both times.
Yes.
Yes,
checking.
that's it.
Yep.
Good point.
It's a 50% rating or something.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to remove the 28,000 for the Matrix 300 RTK drone and base station for 28,000 and move it out of this year's CIP, and cash capital of 28,000. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 500. And Joe left, and I was thinking about the Plough purchases, and I forgot about that. I don't know if we've tortured him enough. More.
Do you want me to take a recess and I can give him a call real quick?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Could walk around for a little bit.
Yeah. Move
Get some
to
blood.
go into a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
We have to do that, or?
Yep. Second. All those in favor of returning to session?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. So back in session, we're just looking at CIP, and in conjunction with a discussion with Joe Bergaw, he is willing to say, really important for at least 3 plows, but we could potentially push off the other 2. So with that, I'll make a motion to reduce the plow purchases in this year's CIP from 50,000 down 20,000 to 30,000, which would give him 3 plows.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. The motion carries 500. I didn't have anything else for CIP. Did anyone else have?
got one thing, is for the artificial turf replacement with track recapitalization for $1,250,000. Maybe my eyes aren't as critically attuned to as others, but the other day when I was turning bottles into the band where they collected for fundraising, I walked around the track and I walked on the field while the lacrosse practice was playing, granted at the opposite end of the field where they were playing. And it, to my eyes, it didn't look like it was in that great a state of disrepair that it could maybe go another year. I've read articles that the fields can go 10 to 15 years. I think the field's at the 14-year point. I don't want injuries to occur. I realize that the field gets harder as it gets compacted through the years, but with the spiraling cost of everything else, I think that could be something that could be put off for 1 year. So I'd like to make a motion to take the artificial turf replacement with track recapitalization and move it to next year's capital improvement plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So the motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Can you highlight the line item, Kevin, so we can see it, please?
Very bottom,
That-
1.25 million. Read before the black bar, the last page.
Deliberations.
I was going to just say that, you know, the CIP committee did look at this, and they frequently go out and do this test to determine how much things bounce back up. It's literally a ball that they bounce, I guess.
It's like force absorption or something like that. right?
Yeah.
How much?
And so they were pretty adamant that it was getting to the end of its useful life.
We have here?
Jerry, you look knowledgeable about, and you were in a lot of these. Do you want to, being a turf guy?
Yes. I guess I can provide general information about athletic turf, but you're correct. There are standards for impact resilience of athletic turf. And turf does wear out. It does need to be maintained on a regular basis. I guess I would also, just from a personal standpoint, I actually referee soccer games. I referee games on the artificial turf, and I have seen, clumps of the turf kind of ripped up and stuff like that. That are hazards that need to be addressed before games. I do know that the artificial turf at the high school is used, certainly by the high school teams, but also by park and rec programs happen there from time to time, or special events, or activities from youth sports that use the turf. So it's heavily used. I would say that any investment in artificial turf, the use of that turf is it accommodates a lot more use than natural grass turf. And the fact that there are lights at the stadium, there's a lot of use that can go into there, and all of the use that happens on that turf reduces the use of facilities like Bridebrook Park. So there's kind of a trickle-down effect that benefits the community as well. So I'm not here to, I don't have any control over the turf at the high school, but I do know, generally speaking, that would be my comments.
So, Jerry, have you seen turf tears on our field?
Yes.
Oh,
In
okay.
fact, yes,
Oh.
I've seen them
That's what I thought you said.
on Dick North Field. Yes. And and they have to be repaired, but the repairs are
Right.
it's just not the same as.
No,
yeah.
I understand, and if it's okay with you, John, I didn't notice tears. They probably do a pretty good job repairing. I'd like to withdraw my motion. I know it was made and John seconded it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we always like a second because that gives us the opportunity to have a full discussion on everything.
But one thing I do remember about that turf field, because I was on the school board when the decision was made to go with it, and we really wrestled quite a bit over it. There was supposed to be some funding tucked away to make it less painful as we did the replacement. That, as far as I know, there's only $25,000 in that account, if that. I'd like to see going forward that we do a little bit more pay as we go, so it isn't such a big capital hit. I don't know if that'll be possible in budget.
outside
I
of
don't have
Jerry's
any
here.
information.
Yeah. No, that's not directed at you. That's just, I remember from school board days, and I would like to see that in the future.
I'm not sure where that revenue goes. There's probably an account at the Board of Ed. Yeah.
Just a question. Every year it comes up, mainly by me, about the argument of artificial turf versus grass. Now, is that discussed every year or every other year? I know there's benefits to both, and is
Yes, I guess, and again, I can answer generally speaking from just being a member of the profession.
Yeah.
So there are benefits and there are, problems with each natural grass or artificial surfaces. Artificial surfaces, like I mentioned, you get a lot more use on an artificial surface than you will on a natural grass surface. There are some people that have concerns over, like, the crumb rubber infill may be, somehow or some level of toxicity or whatever, or knee injuries on artificial turf or things like that. Those are risks that you kind of weigh against the cost of maintaining natural grass. Certainly on natural grass fields, you are typically applying herbicides or pesticides or fertilizers or things like that to the grass to make the grass reach that level of impact resistance that you need to protect people. That doesn't naturally occur in nature. So either way, there's kind of a balance of pros and cons. I think I would say the fact that every high school in the area has an artificial sports field kind of speaks to the general consensus that best serves the needs of the community in terms of providing the most safe playing surface that you can get for the money and for the amount of use that you need to get out of it.
Well, I know in the past, the argument for artificial turf at the high schools is it's used a lot other than football. And if it was grass turf, it would become muddy, whatever.
Indeed.
And on the other side of the coin, which in a way has no relation to high school, but most of the pro teams in football prefer grass because the injuries are less. And I have somebody in my family who deals with that, and he says the injuries, when they had the pro teams had a lot of artificial turf, there were a lot of high ankle injuries.
Yes.
But the use of the football fields in the pros probably isn't used as often as the high school.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and one thing I guess I would just caution people to, as they're kind of making that comparison, in professional sports, you're dealing with professional athletes who are, it's not the typical high school person. So if you're, so the injuries are typically different. And, but yes, depending on the surface you choose, you're kind of making a trade-off for what things might be more susceptible on one versus the other.
Okay, let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
Just like a lot of other things in technology and whatever, the quality of the artificial turf, I would think, would get better as time goes on.
Indeed.
So the artificial turf that you're putting in today is a lot better than 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Absolutely.
And probably the cost is more too.
I'm sure that it costs more than it did 10 years ago, but you're absolutely correct. The manufacturers of athletic turf are learning lessons every day, and the product that they would put down today is heads and shoulders better than a product that was installed 10 or 15 years ago.
I'm sure there's a committee formed to look into that. Now, do they look into the different companies that make artificial turf to see what the best one is for your particular situation?
I can't speak for the Board of Education, but I'm sure that their athletic staff and their school staff would be looking at that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just one comment, John.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part that we were wrestling with on the Board of Ed, was natural grass versus artificial turf. And one thing to keep in mind is that field's over one of the town's aquifers. So you eliminate that much more chemicals going into our water.
As far as the natural grass you're talking about? No.
Yeah, if you had natural grass, you would have a lot more chemicals leaching into the water.
I guess, thank you for saying that, but one thing I would add on to that, if you go natural turf at the high school, the Connecticut's got state laws that prevent various chemicals from being used on school properties. So you wouldn't be able to maintain the level of turf on that field, like, if you see a grass field on TV that a soccer team or a football team is playing on, the high school turf would not look anything like that. And I guess I would point at Bacon Academy up in Colchester, who has a natural grass field that's just absolutely torn apart because, they can't maintain it with the products that we would maintain it off of school grounds.
So is that state regulation just for football fields or baseball
No,
fields
it's any.
as well?
It prevents the use of any kind of pesticide or herbicide on school properties. So any grass, including athletic fields, is covered by that law.
You know what, in the interest of time,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
maybe we can,
Yeah, sorry.
since you've withdrawn,
Yeah.
I think we just wanna.
Okay.
Is there anything that I've forgotten to bring up?
Yes. And it wasn't, okay. Is this thing on? Okay, there it is. I couldn't hear myself. All right, so, Town Building Committee, we cut it back to $1. I had a call with Mariana Stevens at the Board of Ed. The initial meeting was done by one of the administrative assistants at the Board of Ed, but it is really a town function, right? There's 2 roof projects, they're gonna meet once a month. So I think we should add, not only should we restore the $250, we probably should add another $950 to make it $1,200. That's $100. I know we're going the wrong direction, but I'll sacrifice myself in a minute. And but if we put $1,200 there, it's $100 a month. That's essentially a 2-hour meeting and an hour and a half or 2 hours to do the minutes, right? So I think so. I think we should.
Okay. Anyone want to make that motion?
$1,249.
Town Building Committee.
Town Building Committee.
$1,199.
I'll make a motion to add $1,249 to the Town Building Committee budget.
Second?
Was that?
$1,199. Sorry, my math was wrong. To make it $1,200.
$1,200. $11.99 or
Yeah, so it's $1 now, so plus $11.99.
$11.99.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Nope, that motion carries 5-0-0. Anything else I've forgotten there?
Who was the first and second? Paul was the first. Second was
John.
John. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right. Just in the interest of looking, we're so close to hitting the 5s. So I think Fair Rent Commission 2,400. That's essentially $200 a month for recording secretary. I think we could drop that 600. That would still give us $150 a month. It's not like a monthly meeting. It's as you go.
And especially if we pursue some sort of AI for recording.
Correct. Yeah.
That
We'll
would
get
be
there.
So easy.
We didn't meet afterwards to hear the name, but we'll have to talk about that afterwards. So, yeah.
So you think we could reduce that to a total of 600?
Reduce it by 600 to 1,800.
Okay, by, okay.
What are your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. You know, it's, there's a learning curve with the commission. They're getting more efficient. So I think that's a good place.
We have, looking at it now, other commissions that meet monthly have 1,200. So I think we can half that.
Yeah.
And we'd still have money there.
I think so. Yep.
So I think we could reduce it to 1,200.
Good.
Okay, yep. Make a motion to reduce it by 1,200.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 500. Does anyone else have anything on any other department or any other CIP that they wanted to?
I mean, so since, Kevin, since you made that suggestion and you're willing to do that, especially if we're going to pursue an AI-based way of taking minutes,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't we apply that to all of the places in the budget where we use clerical to take minutes?
So with that particular line, we've only had 2 meetings. I believe 2 meetings, maybe 3. So we haven't had a ton of meetings. That's a new commission, so we're kind of spitballing with that 2,400. I think that commission's been at least 5 months, would you say?
Yeah.
It's been there, and they've met.
November.
They've had 2 actual meetings, so I think the 1,200's more closer to actual.
And I
It's
think
slowing down
Yeah.
the number.
And I think also just, in terms of rolling out something new, doesn't happen fast without, some sort of training. So I think it's definitely something we pursue and hopefully get up and running. But I feel a little bit hesitant to, until we worked out a process, because someone's still going to have to do something.
them.
And we're going to have to pay them something, but hopefully less, but until we know what that is.
So we need to even check if it's allowed by state statute or state
Yeah.
regulations. It may not be allowed yet.
Other towns are doing it. Karen Galbo did
Yep.
check with some of the surrounding towns in her network.
It's doable, but I think we have to step into it
Yeah.
a little bit
So
slowly.
somebody's still got
I
to review
understand.
it.
Yeah.
You don't lose it. You have a transcript. You can always go back to that transcript. It's just that, and then the minutes are generated from the transcript by the AI program. So, I mean, I'm willing to be patient.
Yeah.
But
So
I feel like it can be broadly used.
Yeah.
I thought this was interesting. Of all the towns, I would not have expected Voluntown to be using AI to translate their minutes, but they do.
Well, good for them.
So I'm just saying, small little town, you'd think,
Go Volunteer.
but early adopters,
Yeah.
early adopters. So that's just something to think about. But I do want to, if we could look at that, we're so close. We're at 5.996. So if we cut a couple $1,000s, that'll drop that to 599. That sounds a lot better than 6.0. I know I had budgeted $4,900 of overtime in my lines. What we can do in the finance office, if there is not available funds to pay overtime, it automatically reverts to comp time, right? So that'll be less people I have in my office, but that's part of the union contract. So I'd like, we can cut 3,000 from that line, make it 1915. That just gives me a couple thousand there for special projects. But I'd be comfortable cutting that 3,000.
I'll make a motion to cut overtime in the finance department by 3,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Kevin. And
Plus, you're going to
Now-
get 99.2%.
You what?
Now-
You're going to get 99.2% probably.
Do you want to just see what it looks like? Do you want
I'm
to?
just teasing. I don't want to waste it.
So there will be, an opportunity again. So, we will get better information out of the state in regard to grants. And we will have the public hearing on April 28th when people can address the budget. We would then adjourn to a special meeting after that public hearing so that we could take anything we heard into consideration and make our final recommendation that would then go to the town meeting and then to referendum. So I just want to make sure, Kevin, you've made whatever final adjustments as it relates to insurance, health insurance, whatever.
We did not. We did not. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm not going to save that then. I always save a backup just in case this file
Yeah.
corrupts because I'm not redoing this. Okay. All right. Let's go to health insurance.
And what else?
Okay. So we did cut half a park maintainer, and we cut firefighter 13. So we cut one full time, which is about 40,000 without the. Let me just pull it up here. Here I was sacrificing my department.
Then, before we forget, also, we want to cyber insurance. Talk about that one too.
The cyber.
Yeah, I don't think we did that yet. Did we?
I'll take a. We could, let's see. Well, this one doesn't show it. Hold on here.
Because I know we kept saying we've got to.
We did not cut cyber.
Okay, so under government miscellaneous and benefits, we are looking to adjust. So nothing in pension because firefighter would have been in the
Defined
contribution, and the other was a part-time, right?
The other was so the park and rec maintainer was an UPSU,
Okay.
so that's a pension.
Pension.
Okay, so did you want to? We'll get to that one later. We'll do healthcare first.
Sure.
Okay.
What about the fact that we moved the Youth and Family Services Program Coordinator to an alternative source?
That was without benefits.
I thought that it was restored by
The social
By
worker
social
was. Only the social worker position had benefits.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
We already reduced the health by the 9%.
Yep. So we did that last. I believe we did that last meeting. Hold on here. I'll just cancel some of these things out. Okay, let me just look here. Okay. So we're at 2,562,000. Just want to see where these numbers pull from before we make any changes. We've got 9.5 firefighters. Okay, so five family. So down here we are dropping.
I just have a suggestion while Kevin is kind of fine-tuning these numbers. We do have a couple of people that are here from the public that I think wanted to speak. Do you want to?
That'd be
Yeah. With that way you're not rushing
Yep,
and we're
yep,
not
yep.
all
That would be
sitting
great.
here staring at you.
Staring at my numbers, stressing me out. No, that'd be great.
And while you're doing those numbers, I think we also wanted to, so FICA, Medicare, and retirement liability, I think we thought we could play with too. So a couple of those in there. So I'm going to make a motion to allow Kevin to play with numbers and move to public discussion, and then knowing that we will come back to budget deliberations.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. So we're going to go to item 7, public discussion, where anyone from the public can address us on anything that comes under the purview of the Board of Finance. And when you get to the podium, if you could just give your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Pierre Baumgartner. I'm at 18 Burnap Road. I'm a resident in town, the village of Niantic. Also a retired employee from the town of East Lyme for 27 years. And also a member at the Flanders Fire Department and Niantic Department. Before I start, I just would like to thank the board for your dedication, for your patience, and for your strong facts on representing the town of East Lyme.
Thank you.
From the time I was employed with the town of East Lyme, I was always exposed that the town always borrowed from Peter to pay Paul. We always are in that category of reacting. We have no proactivity to protect all of our agencies in good times and bad times. You mentioned, Ms. Hall, about liability. First Selectman Mr. Dan Cunningham mentioned morale. This town lost the morale of employees. That's how come the overturn of employees is sky high. They can't keep anybody. There's no one in any agency, fire, police, Parks and Rec is good. Parks and Rec was always the best department because they're on their own. They're independent. But water and sewer, you have an overturn of employees over and over and over, and it's insulting, it's embarrassing, and the town of East Lyme don't deserve it. So, I mean, my comments towards like the police department, if you want to extend the life expectancy on a police cruiser to like 10 years, after that vehicle is off of parole, isolate that vehicle to just do road jobs. It can run all day, you remove the cage, you can recycle it, put it in another cruiser, a new cruiser, you can save money that way. The fire department had an amazing volunteer program, and they demolished it. They did surveys on surrounding towns on how to be independent with a new program, new scheduling, but again, we don't have the manpower for it. So what's happening? You're not saving on a respirator or pack or uniforms. Your expenses are overtime because you don't have enough guys to do the job. Public Works, and I'm sorry Mr. Brogar had to leave, but you're not going to save any money on a faded stop sign or a full shed of salt. The last 3 years we didn't have any snowstorms, so you should be golden. A stop sign, again, we come back to liability. If you have a faded stop sign, somebody's not going to be instructed to stop. They're going to go through that sign. Now you created an accident. So that's where your liability comes in. So, the fire department needs some major structure. And I will encourage for the town to provide a town manager to oversee every agency. Police, if a police officer is out, you're not a police officer, but hey, if you don't have your vest on, you're gonna get run over. Liability. You know, custodian. You're not gonna save money on eliminating a custodian because this town grew tremendously that we have multiple buildings that we added on to. The police department was across the street. Now it's probate. The police department has a huge building. And you also have Parks and Rec building and the senior center. And for the agents, for the senior center bus drivers, I was always that town employee saying, wow, because you can hear the transmission of the bus drivers picking up our seniors in town. And I was always like, wow, you know what? One day you guys gonna hear on the radio, we're picking up Pierre Baumgartner, taking him to the doctor's office. But, you know, agencies, like I said, you need structure to rebuild your morale and to prevent liability. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't often get people coming to our Board of Finance meetings, so it's always encouraging when
Yeah,
a member of the public shows up.
Thank you very much. I mean, and again, you know, the town's retirement is extremely bad. So you're not gonna have people that's gonna stay here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So. How are we looking?
Or we could shave off another 66,968
From
from the health insurance
health
line.
Okay.
Yep.
Someone want to make that motion?
I move that we shave off
What's the number?
You want to do it?
No.
Sorry, you want me to zoom in a
Nobody
little?
can read it.
$66,968 from line 5-something-217 for health insurance.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded.
Just-
Any,
Kevin, could you clarify that number?
Yep, so we're cutting 66,968 for a new total of $2,539,483.
Can
Okay.
you just describe how you got to that number, please?
Yep, who seconded that? John, did you second that? Paul?
I did.
You did, Paul?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, just writing notes just in case we don't have a meeting. Okay, so in our health insurance line here, what we did, we cut the firefighter 13, which we had as an E+1. We cut that out, and we also cut out Park and Rec. Let's use this bottom one here, which I had as a stipend. So, shaved it down a little bit. So down here at the bottom is my little worksheet. So let me just explain what we're looking at here.
Is there any way you can zoom in a little bit?
Yep, I'm trying, I'm getting there.
Thank you.
So here's our, so here's where we got our numbers. So we pay stipends to employees that do not have our health insurance. Okay, we have to pay every year for an OPEB disclosure, $14,000. We pay for other post-employment benefits. I budget about $6,000. There's only one individual that really comes in and brings me his receipts. Volunteer firefighter physicals, that is paid for by the town. So the health insurance number is $2,426,483. Add it up, 2 million. And so here's the calculation. So when you look at UPSU, they're at a 19% increase, or not increase, I'm sorry. The UPSU union pays 19.5% towards their health insurance premiums, right? Dispatch pays 15.5%, the police pay 20%, firefighters 19.5%, non-affiliates are 16%, retirees 50/50. Add that all up. This wasn't over here. So add that all up, $2,539,483. So we pulled one of the last bills we've had, saw what we had for open positions, did kind of a blended, okay, we can't do family for each of these because that's 40,000 a pop. So we did, you know, so you saw that last park and rec guy, I said, okay, we'll say he's a stipend. So if we budget everyone a family, it's 40,000 apiece. So we kind of have to do a blend. Hopefully we're not bringing in every family man or woman.
So what was the figure that you,
2,539,483.
Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So then still in government miscellaneous and benefits, anything in the FICA?
Gonna look now, so. I mean, I'm still at 1,019,169 for the benefits. It's higher than the 1 million, but that's with full staffing, which we don't have.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we came with that
All right.
$1 million cut.
Workers' comp?
Workers' comp doesn't really change by the.
Pension.
Pension number. I think it's just a rough bit estimate off of. The $4 million from non-affiliateds. So that's roughly based off of what our average has been.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Probably
Yeah.
keep it. So probably nothing really more associated with the elimination of that.
Yeah, I think it's really
No.
just the health insurance.
So then,
It looks like we didn't touch this one. Retirement
that's
liability.
what I was just gonna say. Can we,
30,000.
I think we could probably, so this retirement liability is that number that we budget for in case, when people turn in their retirement and they get paid out for their unused, sick time, vacation and all that. And a couple of the employees have been here for a long time and could end up getting, you know, significant payouts on their departure. So,
Can you show us what's been spent in the current budget year?
So I'm going to pull up, last year I did a little analysis using years of service and age and highlighted 14 individuals. I'll share my screen in a second. I just have the names up right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this was pretty accurate. So of the 14 individuals I selected that reached this magic age of years of service plus age, of the 14, 5 retired. So roughly we're batting 33%. So let me, just hide the names. My mouse decides to work. So we can see the individuals highlighted in green have retired. So here's their payout. If all 14 of these people said, we're retiring today, I would have had to pay out $572,000. With just these 14 individuals, the town has 160 full-time employees. Any given time, so just this past week, we've had a firefighter retire. We paid him out $6,500. We have a police officer retiring. I don't remember what his pay is, but stand by 10 seconds.
and this is why, I've said, to Dan, to the extent that we could remove this benefit from any union contracts because it's so difficult to budget for, that would be very helpful.
So we've had 3 employees quit in the last 2 weeks. The police officer, who was not here long, is getting paid out $4,000. Very young police officer. So the Firefighter's getting paid 6. This police officer's getting paid 4. We have a public works person that retired on 3/26. They got paid out 8,600. So these are low level. I don't want to say low level, but
Hadn't been here a long time.
low tenured employees.
And so of the remaining ones in there, if 30% of them retired,
So let me just look at the. I really need. I shouldn't have deleted the names because I could have been able to pick who was going to retire. But yeah, so I mean, if we just eliminate, if we do every other one that's not green, and just say we got to pay that out. So this is the individual that retired.
it's
Luckily,
not up on our screen.
oh, sorry. So luckily, the top line here was one of our largest,
Potential.
accrued- yeah, that person retired. So we paid that person $23,500 just about a month ago, July 1, right? So it's a good thing we looked at this. So July 1, we have to pay this individual $47,000 from that retirement liability line, right? So before we really whack that, 47,000 is paid out to one individual July 1st, right? And that's just because that's a non-affiliated employee. The second employee here, these two employees are also non-affiliated. So I imagine these two people will retire this year. So, I mean, if we add that up plus this, and we just pick this one, and I'll pick these two low
I just
liars.
recommend we leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're beating a dead horse here.
Yep.
So just something to.
Okay, so then, the other thing, and this one that I was thinking about was the cybersecurity insurance. While we're working towards being in a position to purchase it, we are not there yet. And probably won't be this year.
So I think a good compromise would be, if we reduce this to, some dollar amount, if we do happen to get to a place where we have, multi-factor authentication rolled out, which I believe we almost do for everybody, and then there's, I think some of these applications to file for cybersecurity have dozens of requirements. This is something we didn't get to this year. If we get to it next year, maybe we just move it out of contingency. It could be for the boards.
So maybe like leave 1,000 in there.
1,000 or 2,500, something like that. Anything's better than nothing.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reduce the cybersecurity insurance from 10,000 to 2,500.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 500. That's all I had for this. So, so at this point, we would look, I guess, for a motion to put forward this budget with the idea that, by April 28th, we will have updated information on state grant money. But this would be the budget that this body is recommending, unless someone has anything else they want to change.
Yeah, I don't know if this is appropriate for now or if it's when we do our deliberations after the public meeting. I know that the cash payment increased 700,000 this year from the previous year's payment.
Debt service, cash capital.
Yeah, cash capital.
We in the the movement, we just made some of those cuts to the capital projects, and we moved some of the I moved some of the projects into debt, into bonded. We reduced it to 1,322,851. So I don't know if you can see on the screen here.
Is it possible to zoom in?
Yep, I'm zooming in. See up here, Rich? Is there a glare on that screen?
Yeah, a little bit, but you've got the cursor on the 1322.
Yep, so right here, cash capital. We can reduce that a little further. We just have to move projects to different funding sources. So if we want to drop that anymore, all I have to do is just shuffle some projects to 5, 10, or 20-year bonds.
Okay.
I'm moving most of them to 5.
But is my memory serving correctly that this was what it was after it went through the first selectman, about that 1.3, and then it got increased when it went to the Board of Selectmen? It was up like 1.6.
1,623,351, I think it was.
Yeah, that was the proposed budget.
Right.
Yep. So
Okay. So with the movement of things and elimination of capitals, we're down to 1,322.
correct.
And what impact, I know it's not the direction that we want to go, but if we maintain the amount of cash capital this year
Mhm.
as last year, keep it at 902 or at most $1 million,
Okay.
and save the 332 or 432, what kind of impact does it have on our debt payments?
Debt payments.
Yeah,
It's going to, so this current budget has 6.5 million added to debt,
right.
right? So on top of, now we're going to move another 400,000, so we're close to $7 million to bonded, and we already have 20 million plus. What did we just take out last week? 550.
And our level of debt is definitely
It's
something that.
It's high. I'm just trying to think of, that the cash capital feeds into what our bottom line is for the budget for this
Yeah,
year.
it's like a double-edged sword, right? Because if you move over to cash capital, you're just shooting up debt service for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So let's look down here. So let's go. So if we take capital projects, and so currently we're at 1,322,000, and you're saying drop it 322, 851. That'll bring you to $1 million. Dropped you. What was it before? Let's see what it was before. 1.55. Where's my little? So right now it's 1.55, and if we subtract 322, 851 to bring it to $1 million. So you dropped it 0.12 mils. It's about 1/10 of a mil.
But it could cost the town in the long run.
It
from
will
the-
cost the town
yes.
more money in debt service.
Yeah. I don't know whether you're going to make a motion or.
I'll make the motion. What is it? I move to decrease the cash payment for capital by 332,000. What was the other part of it?
322, 851.
By $322,851. So that our cash capital outlay would be $1 million, an increase of 100,000 approximately from last year.
Is anyone going to make a second? So, the motion failed to get a second, so we will move on. It's good to explore these things, but I'm really, I'm hoping that we can get to the point where we have much less debt on our books, because that will save the town money in the
Oh, I
long run.
understand.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other suggestions that they wanted to pursue?
Not this time.
So then, do I have a motion to put forward this budget as it stands before you, to present at the public hearing, with the caveat that there could be an update on state grants by then?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
have
Do you-
discussion first?
discussion, sure. Sorry.
Okay, so Kevin, with this proposed budget, could you give a quick estimate for what the increase for the taxpayers would be? And also what the increase in mill rate would be?
Yep, okay, so,
Thank you.
mill rate would increase, by about 1.5 to 27.9, about 5.88% increase. How does that affect mom and dad taxpayer? So if your house is valued at $500,000, you were assessed at $350,000, which is 70%, right? So this current year, you paid $9,200 in taxes. This upcoming year, you will pay $9,700 in taxes. It's an increase of about $500, about $45 a month.
Thank you.
Alrighty,
Any further discussion?
just make sure everything's good.
No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
The motion carries 4-0-1.
Capital, do you do capital and tenure?
Okay, yep. So, we went through the CIP. Do I have a motion to approve the one-year CIP with those adjustments that were made today? And put that forward?
I move to move forward the CIP plan as suggested.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those
You
in,
got names on the screen.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you for that.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, that motion carries 5-0-0. And then also to put forward the 10-year CIP.
Move forward the 10-year CIP budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0-0. We had our public discussion already. Move on to board comments.
Just something for, if we could, on the mill rate example for the houses.
Yep.
I think somebody had mentioned at the last meeting. if we
Commercial.
Add some commercial properties, so
I'll do
they,
it right now.
some of the, pick a couple of,
Yeah.
maybe some of the people over
Costco.
at Industrial Park
Yeah.
Drive and Stop and Shop, stuff like that, just,
Give us an idea there, yep.
Okay.
some of the small
I'm just gonna
businesses
highlight
over
this
at
way.
different buildings in town.
Yep. Any other board comments? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for your